620 WDAE.
Fella, he's one of us.
Buckle up. Because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Welcome aboard on this Would You Rather Wednesday. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. The Drive by Moss Nissan is on the air with executive Pella, including WDAE. So make sure you favorite us on the app. You can also scan our stations, and you can also favorite your favorite podcasts like The Drive. Commercial-free podcasts of the show can be accessed through the iHeartRadio app, so don't forget to like that as well. It's a beautiful thing. Download it now. You can listen to us from anywhere through the new and improved iHeart settings output recording.
All right, I am double checking.
Settings output recording.
All right, I am double checking there. Yes, YouTube is working right now.
It is? All right. I don't know if it is or isn't, but all right. Now it looks like, wait a minute, we may have a reconnection. Maybe it's working now. This is just like busting. But TampaBay.com, I saw him the other day, milling about the Bucs locker room. We had an interesting discussion. So we're going to talk to him about all things Tampa Bay, not just about the Bucs and the disappointing end to their season, but what about the Rays? We're less than a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting down in Port Charlotte. What's happening with the Rays? Stadium situation. What's happening with the Trop? There's just so many. If it's status quo, is that going to be enough, even with their improved pitching, to make the playoffs? Remember, the rest of the American League East is tough, man. Baltimore is tough. I know they've sustained some losses, but they've added some guys. You know what the Yankees did? They lost Juan Soto, and then they got mad. And then they started adding every single veteran player. They traded for Devin Williams, the Brewers closer. They signed Max Fried. They signed Paul Goldschmidt. They got Cody Bellinger. Look, the Yankees are loaded. The Red Sox got Garrett Crochet. I mean, their starting rotation has been improved. So it's going to be really tough for the Rays to compete as is with this current group. Will Eric Neander add to this group at some point over the next month before pitchers and catchers report? So a lot of questions. I'll chop it up with John Romano at 4 o'clock. Then at 5 o'clock, one of our favorite guests will join us. Former NFL offensive lineman, the pride of Princeton himself, Ross Tucker. He will be with us, and we'll talk to him about all things Bucs and NFL. I think he was on the call for the Eagles-Packers game over the weekend on the radio. I think I was listening to him do that. So we'll discuss that with him coming up in a matter of minutes. Ross Tucker at 5 o'clock. Would you rather at 5:30? There's going to be some very interesting predicaments and choices. Life is about options and choices. Make sure you pick the right one. And that's what Would You Rather is all about. And we're going to get that to you at 5:30. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. There's so much to discuss between the Bucs and the NFL. The Lightning with an awful performance last night. One of their star players got benched. We're going to tell you about that a little bit later on. But we begin with the Buccaneers and the aftermath of their playoff loss. Everyone's kind of wondering, what is next for the Buccaneers? They have a bunch of free agents. Who's staying? Who's going? That's the theme of our opening drive here on a Would You Rather Wednesday.
Start the engine. Gas to the floor. Here's the opening drive.
Opening drive brought to you by the award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey 91, available at your favorite Tampa retail store. Drink Chattanooga Whiskey, I do, and as always, enjoy responsibly. So the Buccaneers are contemplating some moves. I was there on Monday for Todd Bowles' season-ending press conference, and he was asked about off-season moves and whatnot, the priority. And he's like, oh, we haven't talked about that. Well, the hell you have. I mean, I don't want to call Todd a flat-out liar. Now, he's not going to come out and tell you exactly Oh, yeah, we've talked about it. Here's what we're going to do. Here are the free agents we want to bring back. Here are the free agents we want to pursue. How much money will they have under the cap? It doesn't appear to be a whole lot. They can create room. As Greg Allman mentioned when he was on yesterday, they can restructure a few deals. But there are also a number of key free agents that the Buccaneers would like to bring back. Now, right at the top of the list is Levante David and Chris Godwin. But let's talk about Levante for a second, because we caught up to him in the locker room on Monday as he was cleaning out his locker, and I had a conversation with him as well afterwards about a couple of things. But this was a tell. You know what a tell is? You know, you play cards, you try and pick up tells from different people. They may scratch their nose when they're bluffing. Who knows? But maybe this was a tell on Levante's part as to him maybe wanting to return for year number 14. He is 34, going on 35. Levante David told us the other day that he still loves the game and he can still play it at a high level.
I just feel like, I can still, impact the game, be more consistent in that area. But I do still love the game of football. That's the main thing. I've been playing the game since I was 6 years old. I never missed a year. And I think the love of football will always be there with me. But, from now on, I'm just going ahead and just, kind of like just unwind and relax.
Unwind and relax is basically what he's going to do. He's going to take time away. He's got to heal up a little bit. He got rolled up on. He hurt his knee and his ankle against the Commandos. And I had a chance to talk to him for just a few moments after the media broke up. And he said, look, I'll know what I know. When my mind and my body are in agreement, I'll know. And I think he is going to come back. I think one more year is, if I had a guess based on my conversation with him. Now, a guy's got a right to change his mind, right? And maybe he will do that. Now, if he changes his mind about coming back, he's not going to play for anybody else. I would be stunned if that happened. He's had opportunities over the last few years. After the Super Bowl year, Miami was on his radar because he's from that area. And last year, the Buccaneers had to move quickly to re-sign him because the 49ers and John Lynch wanted him. And that's why it cost the Buccaneers more to bring him back. And look, you had to bring him back. You didn't want to see Levante David leave and go somewhere else and wear another uniform. So I think for Levante, it's come back for year 14 or retire and ride off into the sunset. And hopefully 5 years after that or thereabouts, maybe he gets a shot at Canton and the Hall of Fame, which I believe he absolutely deserves based on his body of work. So that was one of the interesting things that Levante said. And he also had a message, by the way, for fans out there that are hating on Todd Bowles. Levante David got his coach's back, came to his coach's rescue, and he had this message to fans about Todd Bowles. Here's Levante on that.
I mean, outside looking in, they see something different, but inside, being in the building and seeing him every day, the way he works, the way he tries to do the best for the players and stuff like that. We know what type of guy we got. We know what type of leader and man he is. And if you don't hear nothing else complaining about him, I don't think you should complain about him.
Boom. I couldn't have said it better. That was awesome. And he's right about the players. Nobody in that locker room complains about Todd. Nobody. Todd always has their back. They don't lay down. Have you ever seen a team lack effort and lay down? And that's happened before with a lot of coaches that we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years. And look, I get it. The recent trend of success has Buccaneer fans spoiled. I think there are a lot of Buccaneer fans out there that are spoiled, honestly. You're spoiled. You're complacent. And I get the criticisms of Todd Bowles, and I discussed it the other day. Look, there's no justification for firing him now. It's not happening. 3 years, 3 division titles, not happening. However, He's got to make a deep run in the postseason or else. And that's a reality of the situation. And he understands that too. But for fans thinking that, the players don't agree with Todd Bowles or a scheme or anything like that, Levante David, who is one of the more outspoken leaders, he's one of the captains. He's maybe the most vocal leader inside that locker room. Just told you where it's at. Right then and there. So what are you going to do? You're going to disrespect Levante and say he's wrong? Come on. But the heat will be on Todd Bowles in 2025. It's a results-oriented business. And in order for this team to take that next step, he's got to win a cup. He not only has to make the playoffs, like if he misses the playoffs, forget about it. He's finished. But he needs to make a deep run in the postseason next year in order to justify bringing him back for 2026. But no move is happening like in the next few days. And I see a lot of fans on social media, we should fire this guy now. I can't believe he's still our coach. You're spoiled, okay? That's what you are. You're spoiled. Jeez Louise. And it's becoming increasingly difficult for me to interact with fans on social media. I got to be honest. And I was just telling Chris Mathis this right before we got on the air. So the theme of the show is we're going to try and figure out which of the Buccaneer free agents they want to keep, who's walking. So that's the tease that I put out on social media, and then you get these people chiming in. One guy is looking for Shavarius Ward and Nick Bolton, and I'm like, I go, what makes you think the 49ers will let Ward go? What makes you think Nick Bolton is Kansas City's version of Levante David? He's their captain, their middle linebacker. I mean, do any of you have any awareness at all? My goodness. One guy just said, hey, how about Myles Garrett? Oh, my God.
Say that.
Yes, say that again. In theory, yes. And this is what fantasy football has done. You're trading this guy for that guy, and you think it's that simple. It's not that simple. And a guy like Myles Garrett, who's the very best at what he does, will not become available. In fact, he just came out and said, wow, the Browns had a discussion with me about the direction of their team. They've got the number 2 overall pick. I kind of like where I'm at. He's not a free agent, okay? And he's not going anywhere. And the Browns would be, look, the Browns have done a lot of idiotic things over the years, like dumping Baker and then trading for Deshaun Watson and giving him a fully guaranteed contract, which has been an absolute disaster for them. So the Browns have made knuckleheaded moves before, but do not expect them to put Myles Garrett out there via trade. I mean, that would just be asinine to the first degree. It's not going to happen. So that's the kind of world that we live in here. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. And the guy I just mentioned just tweeted, you just mentioned me on here. That's right, for all the wrong reasons. All the wrong reasons. I got your receipts right here, Tyler Lewis or whatever your name is. You are delusional if you think those guys are going to be available. So the Buccaneers have many free agents. Right at the top, we just mentioned Levante David. I think Levante, as he said, he's going to take some time to kind of figure things out. And it's either return to the Buccaneers or ride off into the sunset. I think, barring a change of direction, I think he will want to return based on those comments that he made to us on Monday. Now, the other big free agent is Chris Godwin, and we know Godwin, the bad injury, suffered against the Ravens, made $20 million last year. He's 29 years old. The ankle injury, I think, puts some doubt into what his marketability will be like, how his rehab is going. I do know this. I know he loves Tampa Bay, absolutely adores it. He and His wife just gave birth to a child, so congratulations to Chris Godwin on his new arrival. And I do know this as well, as many of you do know. He loves Mike Evans. He and Mike are the very best of friends. He loves Mike. Mike absolutely thinks the world of Chris Godwin. So I think there is a world where Chris Godwin does return. I don't know what the contract is going to look like because of the broken ankle and his rehab. So I think that really, unfortunately for Chris, that's going to maybe torpedo his market value in free agency. But because you're paying your quarterback $33 as opposed to $55 or $60 million, I think the Buccaneers will have some wiggle room in order to bring him back. And I think he does want to come back. I think if I'm Chris Godwin, I think a one-year deal loaded with incentives make the most sense, right? You run it back, you come back to a team that is already playoff ready and maybe could go beyond that for next season and the season after that. You have Jalen McMillan, who I think proved over the last half of the season that he was emerging as a number 2. Before you fully hand the reins over to him, you can bring Godwin back. And if Liam Cohen is still the offensive coordinator, which I think everyone hopes is the case, you'll be able to come out, run a lot of 11 personnel, which means 3 wide receivers on the field, because that is really the basis of his offense before the Godwin injury. And then they had to switch things up and put another tight end. He ran a lot of 21 pony with 2 running backs as well. But I think ideally you want to put 3 receivers out there, which creates mismatches for everybody, and Godwin's a good blocker too. So I think a one-year deal with some incentives makes a lot of sense for the Bucs. It makes a lot of sense for Chris Godwin. You come back, you run it back with Mike and with Jalen McMillan. You're not going to find a trio of receivers much better than those 3 guys. And if those 3 guys can get together for 2025, look out, because I think that can be something special and potent and explosive. 888-546-4620, text at 82945. So those are the 2 big free agents, and I have a feeling both Godwin and David return. Now, there are a number of other guys. Anthony Nelson made the biggest play of the season in Carolina in overtime. He's a free agent. I think the Buccaneers would like to have him back. He's a serviceable guy. He's a good guy. Now, if some team, blows him out of the water with some contract offer, then I think he will leave. But as a rotational guy, I think that's how the Bucs view him. But if somebody else pays him starter money, that's a different story. Ben Bredesen came in on a 1-year deal, 27 years old, made $3 million last year, and he played really well. I think he's one of the guys who, in my mind, overachieved. Remember, the Giants let this guy go, and he was part of a Giants offensive line that surrendered 86 sacks the year prior. So I had some doubts about him coming here, but he came in, he played well. Playing next to Tristan Wirfs, that helps. Graham Barton, obviously, was the man to his right, the center, who obviously he's got a very high ceiling. I think the Bucs want to bring Bredesen back, but I think he's going to be asking for more money. So that remains to be seen. There's a number of other free agents. Kyle Trask, I don't believe will be here. Expiring contract. William Ghostin, I don't know if he's going to be back. He's getting up there in age. He may very well retire. Sterling Shepard's a free agent. If you're bringing Godwin back, obviously he's not going to come back. And Shaq Barrett is the other interesting name on this list. Obviously, he was not in football shape. He played the last 2 games that the Buccaneers played and played sparingly. Todd Bowles mentioned the other day, they have a hope in bringing him back, hopefully on their terms. It's probably not going to be not more than a 1-year deal. And if Shaq is amenable to that, then I think we may have a deal there. And Bryce Hall is the other interesting name on this list. He was a corner. He showed some signs before he got injured very early. So he's another guy that I would be interested in bringing back, provided that he's healthy, and health has always been his big issue when he was coming out of Virginia. He's a talented guy. He is. And if he wants to come back like on a 1-year, again, prove-it deal, I think I would be open to that as well. So there are a number of other names on this list. KJ Britt, JJ Russell. I think those guys are expendable. If Levante comes back, Servassier Dennis is healthy, I think those guys are probably not going to come back. Maybe Russell. I'm not sure about KJ Britt because obviously his wares in terms of pass coverage certainly were exploited this past season. So it's a long list. And again, this is one of the drawbacks when you become a really successful team. Look, the Bucs weren't really successful, but they won 10 games. They won a division. They made the playoffs. When that happens, players who are a part of that, who contributed to that success, and executives too, by the way, they're going to want to get rewarded. And I don't begrudge any of these players like Ben Bredesen, who had a really good year and a one-year deal for wanting more money. Anthony Nelson, same thing. Listen, go out and make $1 million or $2 million. I'm not going to begrudge players for doing that, and the Bucs understand it. And look, it's a business. It's the NFL. You can easily get stabbed in the back for no reason because you make too much money and you count too much against the cap, and you're older or you're injury prone, whatever the case may be. It's that type of business. So you need to watch out for number one, and a lot of these players will be doing just that. And I don't begrudge that as well. Your thoughts? A lot to unpack there at 888-546-4620. Text at 82945 on the Bartow Ford DAE text platform. We'll talk more about the Bucs and Tampa Bay sports, by the way. John Romano at 4 o'clock. Definitely Bucs and NFL with our guy Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, NFL analyst. He will join us at 5 o'clock. We've got Would You Rather as well. Great to have you with us. Yours truly, Chris Mathis. You're wearing, now, I wore my Drive t-shirt yesterday. You're wearing your Drive t-shirt today. What's happening there?
Yeah, you know, thing one, thing two, bada bing, bada boom, you know? We got to go back to back.
Back to back, huh?
I mean, you know, you shared the love yesterday. I figured I'd continue it today. It's a brand new day.
You know, the next move we need to make, you know, electronically, technically speaking here at this hideous radio station, we need to get a camera in there so that people can actually see you.
I don't think they want the... I don't.
You don't?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, no. You're right about that. Todd Bowles, boy. We got to coach it better. We got to play it better. That drives me nuts. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. All right, coming up, your calls. Romano at 4, Ross Tucker at 5, Would You Rather at 5:30. Plus, interesting news with the NFL, head coaching moves, perhaps. And who should be on upset alert this weekend on divisional playoff action. We'll get into all of that and more next here on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive, and it's presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. TKras here, Chris Mathis there, wearing the Drive t-shirt as well. And we are presented by Moss Nissan. And look, with the new year coming around, you know, Moss Nissan wants to put you behind the wheel of a new vehicle. And if you've got holiday hangovers or credit card debt, no problem. They've got the cure at Moss Nissan, don't they?
That they do, Tom. No money down right now, plus no payments due until the spring.
Which is fantastic. I bought my last two vehicles over at Moss Nissan. And look, guess what? They've got Moss Care. You get that with every purchase, which means unlimited tire rotations and oil changes for as long as you own your vehicle.
And also, you're going to get all of that while being able to select from the largest Nissan inventory in Tampa Bay.
They've got 3 locations, so check them out. Tampa, Newport Richie, or up in Brooksville. It's right off the Suncoast Parkway. Real convenient up there in Brooksville in Hernando County. Or you can check them out online at mossnissan.com. That's mossnissan.com. Moss Nissan.
DAE.com/rules. Roll down the windows and the volume up. This is The Drive with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan on WDAE.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, welcome back. 3:33 on your ride home. It's a Wednesday. It's kind of murky and cool and dank outside. But we're going to warm you up here on your drive home all the way up until 7 o'clock. We'll get to your calls in a matter of moments at 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. John Romano at 4 o'clock. Ross Tucker at 5. And then at 5:30, it's Would You Rather. We got some breaking news to tell you about involving Liam Cohen. According to reports, Liam Cohen is interviewing today. In fact, right now, as we speak, Liam Cohen, the Bucs offensive coordinator, is up in Jacksonville interviewing for their head coaching vacancy, which, yes, Jason, like you knew that was coming. So we knew that was coming about. And the question here is, how serious is Jacksonville in hiring Liam Cohen? I mean, they're going to talk to a number of other people. Would Liam Cohen, and we brought this up yesterday, and maybe this will be on Would You Rather. Liam Cohen, would you rather stay here for more money and maybe the opportunity to be the next in line, or would you rather go to Jacksonville, be the head coach up there? It's a guaranteed spot, whereas here, you might get it in a year if Todd Bowles doesn't get the job done in 2025. Jacksonville, you're going up there. You got a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and I'm just not sure, what his ceiling is. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is as good as we all thought he was going to be. I think he's regressed a little bit, and maybe Liam Cohen can get him back on the right track. Maybe that's why Jacksonville wants to talk to him. In fact, that's why Jacksonville wants to talk to Liam Cohen, because like a lot of teams out there, like Chicago, they want somebody who can guide their young quarterback to greener pastures. And look, offensively, there's a lot to like about what Jacksonville does. They've got to shore up their offensive line, but Brian Thomas is an absolute beast at wide receiver. He showed that his rookie year. Evan Ingram's pretty good. They've got a couple of pretty good running backs as well. Etienne and what's his face, the other running back, Bigsby or Big B or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby, right?
Bigsby, that's it. So they got two decent running backs, a tremendous game-breaking receiver in Brian Thomas. Evan Ingram's a good tight end. And Trevor Lawrence. So, listen, I think there's a lot to like. Plus, like the NFC South, you're in a very winnable division in that AFC South. So there's pros and cons, and I'm sure Liam Cohen is going to write a list, pros, cons, That's what Brady did. When he became a free agent, he made out a list of pros and cons for the Chargers, the Bucs, the Bears were in it on Brady, as well as a couple of other sleeper teams. And he decided, thankfully for him as well as for us, that he came to Tampa Bay. The pros and the cons. Bucs obviously had loaded talent on offense. They were pretty good on defense. They just needed a quarterback. Boom. Brady comes in. They won a Super Bowl. So maybe Liam Cohen gets a paper and pen out, if he hasn't done so already, and he's writing out the pros and the cons of the Bucs versus the Jaguars. Bucs OC, maybe with a fancy title, which really doesn't mean anything. I mean, any other team can still hire him as a head coach. But maybe he gets more money this offseason. Maybe the Glazers decide to throw him something to keep him here and keep him happy. But I think if you're Liam Cohen, if you're deciding between the Bucs and Jacksonville, and I got into this yesterday, here's how you have to break it down. Okay, I'm here in Tampa Bay. I already know my personnel. I have one of the best offensive lines. I have maybe the best tackle tandem in football. And Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, right tackle Lou Gedicke, who might be in line for a contract this offseason. He played great football. And there are a couple of other tackle tandems out there that are pretty good. Philadelphia's got a good one. Lane Johnson at right tackle, Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Taylor Decker at left tackle, Penei Sewell at right tackle up in Detroit. But I think the Buccaneers tandem is absolutely right there. Top three, and you can make a case it could be the top one. It could be. So Liam Cohen's thinking, I got a quarterback that I already know, an offensive line that's stupendous, really good receivers, a deep tight end room, a tremendous, electrifying young running back in Bucky Irving who's only going to get better. I mean, this is a top 5, top 3 offense, and I already know these guys. Plus, maybe in a year or two tops, maybe I'm the next guy in charge. Now, the cons with Tampa Bay is you're not the head coach. You're still the offensive coordinator. You're not making as much money. Every coordinator, every coach dreams of being a head coach in the NFL. All of them. And there are only 32 of those jobs. Those are prestigious jobs. So you might be thinking, if I turn down Jacksonville, do I get another sniff anywhere else? Like, what if, God forbid, and this would be just like the most unlikely of scenarios, like a guy gets hurt, like you don't want to see Wirfs get hurt or Baker gets hurt and the offense goes backwards and then all of a sudden you're not the hot name. You're not the it guy. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Remember Byron Leftwich? I mean, he went and interviewed up in Jacksonville. How did that turn out? He was not very keen on the guys that he had to work with in that front office. He had other ideas, and he didn't get the job. Now where is he? I saw the Patriots. They gave him a token interview before they hired Mike Vrabel. Now, I don't think Liam Cohen is in the same class as Byron Leftwich. I think Liam is certainly way more innovative, especially when it comes to run game concepts. He was from the Sean McVay coaching tree, so I think the guy gets it in terms of offensive philosophy. But, stranger things have happened. So maybe that is a would you rather, Chris Mathis, for later. I don't know if you have that written down.
Yeah, Liam Cohen either staying put and potentially being the next guy or going to Jacksonville and being that guy. But if he stayed put, he might get more money here.
Yeah, to be the OC. Not as much money as you would get being a head coach. Right away. So it's about the immediacy of things. Let's go to the phones. Omar is in Tampa. Omar, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, guys. How's it going?
How you doing?
Great.
Well, guys, look, I really appreciate what Bowles did for us these past 3 years. I really do. But my whole thing is, this roster, I think this roster is really, really talented. Like, when you have 3 players who are arguably the best at their position, in Vita Vea, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield was injured this year, but 3 players on one team, we're not even getting to the receivers yet. We're not even getting to this really, really talented roster. And, just to be 500, and before this year, his longest winning streak was 2 games, you have a problem.
Look,
I just think the roster is really, really talented, guys. And we're just so used to mediocrity for the. I remember the dark years with Jameis and Greg Schiano and giving up on the season after 2 months. Well, guys, we really have a shot at this.
They do, Omar, and I appreciate the call. And look, you mentioned Vita Vea, terrific. Tristan Wirfs, terrific. Antoine Winfield, really talented. The Bucs paid him as a top safety, and he had a wasted year. Certainly him being healthy next year, knock on wood, that happens. I think the defense will be better. But they need help on that side. They need another corner, whether the Bucs want to admit that or not. There's a screaming need for an edge rusher. And depending upon Levante, I know Servassier Dennis is coming back. They probably need a draft and an inside linebacker that they need to groom. But edge rusher and corner, I think, are 2 pressing needs. The defense is far from a finished product. Offensively, you're loaded. You're loaded offensively. They're really talented on that side of the ball, but they need help on defense, and they need Winfield to stay healthy, if he could. All right, more of your calls coming up. Daryl, Damon, Scotty, Mark, 888-546-4620. That's the number. We'll get more into this. John Romano at 4 o'clock. Ross Tucker at 5 o'clock. Also, coming up next, the biggest problem with the Tampa Bay Lightning reared its ugly head again, plus a star player gets benched. What is that all about? Details next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
With the weather cooling off, it's been a cold January. It looks like it's going to remain that way. How's that hot water? Is it flowing? Do you have a problem with your tankless heater or your conventional tank-type water heaters? You need to turn to my guys over at Rude Pro Partners and Ferguson HVAC. Air and water are two things a certified Rude Pro Partner knows an awful lot about. You know you can rely on Rude to keep your indoor air comfortable, heat or AC. You knew that. And now you know you can rely on Rude to make sure the hot water is flowing whenever you need it. Rude Water Heating is the industry leader for total water heating solutions. If you need conventional tank-type water heaters, Rude's got it. Tankless water heaters, that's what I've got. Rude's got that too. Replacement parts and accessories for all categories, check and check. Rude is your one-stop solutions provider. And with the exclusive backing of Ferguson HVAC, guess what? Your certified Rude Pro partners get the very best products and parts when you need it. Rude water heaters are engineered and built tough to last. So for AC and water heating solutions, connect with a certified Rude Pro partner. Hit them up. RudeACFlorida.com. That's Rude spelled
Code radio and get an extra 5% off.
Get your most accurate home value estimate at DuncanDuo.com.
Now back to The Drive with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
We've had a standard, since I've been here, it's like 12 years, whatever it's been, that it's professional sports and it's nobody's kind of above the law. And it's unfortunate because it's been a game we could have really needed him. But the one that probably feels the worst about it is Pointer, because he's such a great guy and great team guy.
John Cooper, head coach of the Lightning, lamenting the fact that he didn't have one of his best players last night up in Boston. Blackjack Braden Point had to sit out the game because he missed a team meeting. And the Lightning went out there and did what the Lightning have done from time to time this year. They get off to really slow starts. They were down 4-0, 25, 26 minutes into the game. They fight their way back. But this is something we've seen out of the Lightning far too often this season. They fell behind to the point where they can't climb their way out of it. As we welcome you back, it's 3:52 on your ride home. I'm disappointed in Blackjack Braden Point as well. Sits out the game, missed the team meeting, and John Cooper's like, "Oh, you felt really bad about it," and then they go out there and the Bruins hand it to him. Couple of goals in the first, 2 goals, 6 minutes into the second period. Boom, it's 4-0, game over. Good night, everyone. I mean, they just need to find a way. I know Victor Hedman was talking about this after the game. If I knew what caused it, we'd fix it. Well, fix it. I don't know why it's so hard to figure out. You just need to come out with more intensity, with more urgency, and somebody needs to spark them early. I know Lilleberg got into a fight last night, and, that kind of maybe galvanized the Lightning a little bit there. That's when they woke up, is when he and Frederick dropped the gloves. Then all of a sudden, the Lightning had a little bit of oomph. Maybe off the opening face-off, maybe that's what they should do. Just drop the gloves and start fighting. Maybe that'll get them going. But another slow start by... Choke him! 888-546-4620. John Romano's coming up. Daryl is in Tampa. Daryl, what's going on?
Hey, TKras, how you doing?
Great.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, congratulations on a pretty good season. I know we didn't do what we wanted to do, but in the back of my mind, I didn't think this was our year anyway. I think next year was supposed to be our year. And TKras, you tell me your opinion on this. Our wide receiver, not Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I would love to see him go through an entire season without injury, and I would love to see what our weapons could do. All of our 3 wide receivers, the emergence of our backup players, and Bucky Irving. I would love to see that. Leave the offense alone. We need some help, like an edge rusher, and on our defense. You get the players. Come on, Todd. No, I don't want to see you fired, because if you change the head coach, that means we got to start all over again. We bring somebody else in new, and he's probably going to want put his imprint on this, maybe another offensive coordinator. And the offensive coordinator, if you go to Jacksonville, Jacksonville was what? 4 and what? What was their record? And they were 3rd in the AFC South. You could fall on your face. You might have success, but there's a lot of stuff going on with that organization that ain't right, starting from the ownership on down. I would love for you to stay. That's what I wanted to say, TKras.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I appreciate it. Look, and I think he's going to have to weigh that in as well, right? He's got great owners here in the Glazers. Jacksonville's got kind of like an off-the-wall dude in Shad Khan. And there's already a GM in place that not a lot of people want to work with, in Trent Baalke. And Shad Khan said in a media briefing, I couldn't believe this, where Trent Baalke's sitting right there next to him. He's like, well, if a head coach want to come in and want to change a GM, I think I'd be okay with that. And Trent Baalke's sitting right there, next to him. Boy, oh boy, if you ever want to know how bad an organization is, just see who the owner is, and then you can figure it out. Damon in Brandon. D, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Big Daddy? God bless to you guys and your family. It's been a little while. Haven't taken this much of a sabbatical. Been over in the Badlands. Just got back home yesterday. Wanted to talk about real quick the aspect of Chris Godwin and his return to football in 2025. Here's what I'm thinking. Number one, it was a dislocation, not an actual break. But what we do need to worry about is tendinal, ligament, and cartilaginous injuries, which usually are symbolistic of these type of rollovers, require obvious realignment of the compromised structure and strengthening of the integrity of his ankle. And depending on the severity of the injuries, here's where we get into the Badlands. We're not just talking realignment. We're talking about possible screws and maybe even plates to reinforce that compromised area that could really affect his lateral movement on the field, either avoiding tackles or getting some yak. And if that comes to fruition, in your professional opinion, does his value to the team dramatically degrade, restrict him from certain pass patterns, and he becomes only a situational player? Or can they restructure and drop his annual salary and then go ahead and convince him to do that?
Well, I think this is what they're going to do, Damon, and thanks for the phone call. I think because of the nature of his injury, and it's a shame because I think Chris Godwin was having the best year of his career. Because of the nature of his injury, I think the Buccaneers would want to structure a deal that would protect them. I think a one-year deal might be in their best interest, talking about the Bucs, and in Chris Godwin's best interest too, because I think he was on his way to a huge payday had he stayed healthy. And it's unfortunate that he got hurt the way he got hurt, with the game, in my opinion, already being, all but decided. And in a strange way, if you wanted Chris Godwin here, I think the injury does provide sort of like that safety net for him possibly wanting to return here. Because had he stayed healthy, and who knows where this offense would be, maybe the Bucs would still be playing, who knows, but he doesn't play defense. Had he stayed healthy, he would absolutely maybe be out of the Buccaneer price range unless they put the franchise tag on him. And that could happen. I don't know why you would, though. He's coming off a serious injury. I think getting out in front of it for Jason Light and Chris Godwin and his representation, a one-year deal for a fair base salary, maybe in the 8 to 10 million range with some incentives in there that he can make for yards, catches, touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be fair for Chris. 1 year prove-it deal. You can knock it out of the park, and then in 2026, maybe go somewhere else. Or if he just wants to stay here, I think the Buccaneers would want him to stay here, but Jalen McMillan is here too. And you got Mike signed for another year. I just want these three guys on the field for a full year together. Just think about the possibilities. Tantalizing, to say the least. All right, 1 hour down, 3 more hours to go. Coming up, is Todd Bowles not getting a fair shake from the fan base? He wrote an article on it. And what are the Rays doing short and long term? Are they going to be around? A lot of interesting issues locally in the Tampa Bay sports scene.
iHeart radio station. It's Wednesday from Riverview to Spring Hill and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
I mean, outside looking in, they see something different, but inside, being in the building and seeing him every day, the way he works, the way he tries to do the best for the players and stuff like that. We know what type of guy we got. We know what type of leader and man he is. And if you don't hear nothing else complaining about him, I don't think you should complain about him.
Interesting words. That's Buccaneer linebacker Levante David speaking the other day in support of his head coach, Todd Bowles, who has come under fire from some fans who want him out. That doesn't appear to be happening here, as the Buccaneers, on the midst of a disappointing season, found it to, come to an end. Came to an end against the Commanders. And now the next question is, what will be next? What will the Buccaneers look like next year? Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. Welcome back. 4:08 on your ride home. The drive with yours truly, TKras, presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side. We've got plenty of time for more of your calls coming up in a matter of moments. Ross Tucker at 5 o'clock. Would you rather at 5:30? But what about Todd Bowles? Does he get a bad rap from fans? Joining us right now, the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA Hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He wrote about this very same subject at the Tampa Bay Times and TampaBay.com. My good friend and columnist, John Romano, is back with us on the show. John, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, how are you?
Doing great. It was great to see you the other day, walking around the Bucs locker room, talking about this, that, and the other thing. But talk to us about your article. The headline, Todd Bowles deserves a lot more credit than fans seem willing to give.
Well, the whole reason for writing it was just sort of seeing the reaction on social media and getting emails after the playoff game. People seem to act as if this Buccaneers team should be in the Super Bowl this year. I don't think anybody in the NFL thinks the Bucs are that talented. This is a good team. It's a playoff team. It's a quality team, but it's not a team that should be beaten, the 99% of the other teams in the NFL. And I think Todd Bowles, people seem to be blaming Todd Bowles for this shortcoming. When in fact it's a team that has sort of been rebuilding for the last 2 or 3 years, and while they've done it, Bowles has managed to keep them in the playoffs every year, and I think that's commendable. I'm not sure that Bowles is a great coach. The record speaks for itself. He's 27-24 in Tampa Bay. That's pretty good, but it's not a it's nothing that's going to get you into the Hall of Fame. But considering the circumstances, I just don't think people are giving him enough credit.
And I think you're right, and I read the article, and I've been talking about this as well. The Buccaneers are one of the oldest teams in the league, Brady's last year in 21, and to be able to transition from being one of the oldest teams in the league, one of the oldest teams in the league, upside down on the salary cap, to being the second youngest team, and still continue to win and make the playoffs and win its division, I think there's something that needs to be said for that.
Absolutely. I mean, last year, I believe they had more rookies take snaps on offense and defense than any team in the NFL. This year, among the 14 playoff teams, I think there were only 2 that might have had more rookies taking snaps. So that's 2 years in a row that they've been transitioning to this younger lineup. And, you got to give the guy a little slack for, when players make mistakes, it's not always the coach's fault. Sometimes It's the fault of a 22-year-old who's still young and still fresh in this league and still learning how to play. Now, the expectations should go up every year. And the team has gotten better every year. You know, Bowles' first year as head coach, they were 8-9, then they improved to 9-8, and now improved to 10-7. Next year, I think the standards are going to be a little higher again. You know, so I'm not saying, you know, give the guy a lifetime contract. I just think it's a little crazy to be, you know, trying to run him out of town on a rail and replace him with an offensive coordinator who has been an offensive coordinator for 1 year in the league. I mean, I think Liam Cohen did an incredible job this year. I think he should be in contention for the Professional Football Writers Assistant Coach of the Year award, but that doesn't mean he's a lock as a head coach. Certainly not at this age. I think, what is he, 39 now? He's got plenty of time to grow in this role.
John Romano, columnist, Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. He's got the article on Todd Bowles deserving more credit than fans seem willing to give. He's with me here on The Drive. And you're right in terms of Todd Bowles is not a great coach. I don't think anyone's going to confuse him with a Sean McVay or an Andy Reid. And he certainly needs help when it comes to clock management and things of that nature. But you also hit on another point, too, and we just saw it against the Commanders with young players making mistakes. And these are young players, high upside players, but they are young players. They're going to make mistakes. Graham Barton snapping that ball prematurely, and the mix-up between Baker Mayfield and a rookie receiver, and what I thought was the biggest play of the game. I mean, you were up 17-13 when that fumble took place, and Washington recovered that ball at the Tampa Bay 13, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown after that.
Well, and exactly right. As you point out, those were the two biggest mistakes in the game, Barton's and the fumble, and there were rookies involved in both of those plays. I mean, that's the kind of thing that just happens when you have younger players. And that's, you know, as you said, nobody is calling Todd Bowles a great Hall of Fame coach.
No.
But what he does bring is a steadiness. He's very the players like him. He doesn't call players out. You know, he was a player in this league. He understands the mentality of players. He has got them playing for him. He, you know, behind closed doors, I think fans like to see a little more fire out of a head coach. They like to see a little more criticism. You know, Bruce Allen was great with the quips, and, you know, he would call players out. But, you know, that was a veteran team that Bruce Arians had. Todd Bowles has a very young team, and he knows how to manage a young team. He is the perfect kind of guy to bring these players along. Now, maybe we get to the point in Tampa Bay where, you know, some other type of voice is needed as the team grows older. You know, maybe they do need more of a kick in the butt, you know, publicly, or, you know, a little more accountability publicly. And maybe that's a decision to be made down the road. But right now, I think the guy has done as well a job as you could be expected with the circumstances he was given.
He's safe for now, but I talked about this the other day, and you just mentioned it as well, and you wrote about it too at TampaBay.com. Next year, the expectations go up. Jason Light, we both know him. He's one of the best GMs in the business. He's going to go out there. He's going to find another edge rusher. He's going to find another linebacker, and they need another corner, I think, desperately. They'll make improvements. They'll be better. Does Todd Bowles need a deep playoff run next year in order to keep his job?
I think that is a very plausible scenario, and especially with what they do in the offseason. I mean, if they, you know, you just mentioned three different positions on defense, an edge rusher, an inside linebacker, and another corner. It's hard to come out of a draft with three quality players like that. So I'll be interested to see if they actually go out and spend a little money in free agency in this offseason. They haven't done it the last couple of years. They've sort of devoted the salary cap to re-signing players like Tristan Wirfs and Winfield and Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. Next year, if they go out and spend a little money to boost this defense, then I think absolutely the stakes get higher, the expectations get higher, and the pressure on Bowles will get higher as a result.
Let's talk about some of the pending free agents. You just heard him coming into the segment, Levante David. He talked to us in the locker room. I talked to him, you know, for a couple of moments afterward. Knowing Levante as long as I have, I think he wants to play again. It's just his mind and his body being in agreement with that. I think he's back next year. What say you?
I agree. I think Levante wants to play. It's going to be a question of what the Bucs are able to offer him and what they come up with, what other answers they come up with on that defense, because it's interesting. At his age, 34, Levante just had his best pass rushing season in like 10 years. I don't remember how many sacks he finished with, around 5, but it was the most he'd had in years. And I think it was because they don't have any coverage linebackers anymore. That's what Levante used to be really good at. They used Devin White as the pass rusher in the past, and Levante was the guy who stayed in coverage. Now Levante's rushing the passer because he may not have the legs to be a coverage linebacker anymore. So I think you've got to make accommodations for Levante, and it depends on who they pair him with in terms of whether the Bucs bring him back.
And I think Servassier Dennis is that guy you're talking about, John, because he showed that he was a really good coverage linebacker before he got hurt. He comes back next year. I think he's the guy that the Buccaneers are going to be leaning on. Now, on the other side, Chris Godwin, the other big free agent. I think he's coming back. He had the ankle injury. He loves Tampa Bay. He's really close with Mike Evans. I think a one-year deal filled with some incentives I think would make sense for the Bucs, would make sense for Chris Godwin. Your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely right. Chris Godwin is comfortable here. He's a player coming off a pretty major injury, his second one in like 3 or 4 years. So I don't think he's going to find a lot of riches on the free agent market. I mean, certainly teams will be willing to sign him, but I don't know if it'll be for his true value until he proves himself healthy again after this injury. So as you said, I think it makes absolute sense for a one-year deal. Sort of like what Baker Mayfield did his first year here. If everything goes well, then go ahead. The Bucs can re-sign him to a bigger deal, or he can go look for big money elsewhere. But I would expect Chris Godwin would be back next year.
John Romano, Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. The wonderfully talented columnist is back with us here on The Drive. Liam Cohen, hotshot offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers. He's interviewing as we speak up in Jacksonville, John. So what are the chances he leaves? Now, if you're Liam Cohen, you got to think about this realistically and logistically. I'm here in Tampa Bay. I already know the quarterback, O-line. I know everybody here. Plus, another year or two down the road, I might be in line to be the guy. Or do I roll the dice if I'm offered a head coaching job, which doesn't come around very often? Do I go up to Jacksonville and deal with that nutty owner and a GM that you may not want to deal with, even though you have Trevor Lawrence and another winnable division? What do you think?
It's funny. It's as you said, those jobs are pretty rare, and I can remember Dave Canales last year basically saying, when this kind of job comes along, you don't question where it is, you just take it. And he did that last year in Carolina. I think Liam Cohen can afford to be a little more choosy. I think he's got a very good reputation right now around the league, and I think it'll only grow if he comes back here. He knows this offense, obviously knows this team. I think he realizes he can put up 30 points a game next year as well. Teams are still going to be talking to him next year, sort of like the coordinator in Detroit who waited a year and pretty much has his pick of teams this year. I think that makes much more sense than going to a franchise where the general manager has never gotten a lot of love from anybody around the league. The owner tends to be sort of mercurial and a little trigger happy. So that just doesn't seem like the situation a hot young coordinator needs to take when he's still, barely 40 years old.
All right, let's switch gears. I want to ask you about the Rays because in a few weeks, pitchers and catchers will be reporting. The season will be coming around. The Rays are playing at Steinbrenner Field, as we all know. And this stuff with the Trop and the new stadium and he said, she said, you and I were talking the other day about this. And I just don't know sometimes where the Rays are coming from. They tell the city of St. Pete, we don't think you should don't bother, repairing the Trop, and then they reverse course on that. So give me your best guess as to what you think the Rays are thinking in terms of the Trop. Are they going to be playing at the Trop next year in your estimation or not?
Well, I think the Rays originally told the city not to fix the Trop because they doubted seriously whether it could be done in time for 2026, and they doubted whether it could be done for the price that the consultants originally said, somewhere around $57 million. So I think they felt like it was sort of just a bad idea all around to try and fix something when it hadn't been thoroughly inspected in terms of what they're going to find once they try to put that place back together again. But at some point, Major League Baseball, I believe, stepped in and told the Rays, look, you need to have a place to play in 2026, because I think the Rays were talking about leaving the state, if just temporarily, supposedly, but leave the state, go find a AAA stadium somewhere that's a little bigger, that might have a very hungry fan base, and see if they can increase their revenues a little bit more instead of trying to play in a smaller stadium like Steinbrenner Field, where it's going to be hot and rainy in the summertime and all that. I don't think Major League Baseball liked that idea whatsoever, and I think that's the reason that the Rays switched gears and told St. Petersburg, all right, go ahead, try and fix the Trop, see if you can get it done in time for the 2026 season. Although in the letter that they sent to the city, they specifically said, it's going to cost us a lot of money if it's not ready at the start of the 2026 season, and we have to move mid-season, which is it's kind of ironic considering this is a franchise that was talking about doing a split season in Montreal just a couple of years ago.
Right. Oh, my gosh. It's just one big drama, one story after another. So they want the Trop to be ready. We'll see how that works out. Now, the bonds were approved. I know a little bit later. I know the Rays weren't happy about the delayed vote. And now the longer you wait, John, whether it's fixing the Trop or finding a new home, the more expensive it gets. So they have until March 31st to kind of agree on the new stadium plan and everything else. What do you think happens there?
I think the Rays are just going to play this out for as long as they possibly can until some better idea comes along, whether that's a new stadium plan in Tampa Bay, which I think is kind of doubtful considering what the county and the city politicians have been saying lately, or whether Stu Sternberg just decides, you know what, this is getting to be too much of a hassle. I think it's time for me to just sell the franchise, because I truly don't think Stu wants to move the team out of the market. I don't think he's ever wanted to do that. He didn't want to be the guy sort of saddled with that throughout history. But I do think he's fed up. I think he's just unhappy. I think in his mind, he has done everything he could to put a winner on the field, and the fan support has just not been there in terms of butts in the seat, which is, that's how you come up with your payroll figures is, the more money you make, revenues you get from the box office and on TV, the more you can spend. And so I just think he's tired. I would not be surprised if sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, we hear that the Rays have been sold to somebody. It's just a question of whether there's a local buyer that steps up.
Well, and that's the whole question, because I've been talking to a lot of people, John, as you have, and there are some rumors out there of maybe some owner and investor groups that might be interested in either buying into the team or buying the team altogether, and they've been out there for the last 2 to 3 years consistently. All right, we got less than a minute to go. This is a very difficult question, John Romano, but you're a very smart man, and that's why I'm asking you, all right? In 3 years, who's owning the Rays, A, and B, where are the Rays playing?
Holy smoke. I'm not even sure I can tell you where I'm going to be in 3 years, let alone the Rays. My best guess, it is going to be an owner that we do not know. I don't think it's anybody local that, the names that you hear around town here. I think it's going to be somebody from elsewhere. And I do think once you get a new owner in, a new stadium deal comes together in Tampa Bay, which seems to happen in a lot of places. It's never the first owner that's seeking the stadium that gets it built. It's always the second owner who comes in and sort of is the white knight to save the day.
I agree with you. I think the Rays have a new owner, and I think they figure out a way to stay here, somewhere in the Tampa Bay area. I don't know if it's in St. Pete or in Tampa, but I think they're here, and I think it's a new owner calling the shots. All right, he's John Romano.
I agree.
Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. Great article on Todd Bowles, and I'm sure a lot of fans will go and read it because they want him fired. John, you're not getting fired anytime soon, buddy. I appreciate a few minutes.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
You do as well. John Romano, great stuff there. Me, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going to be in 3 months, let alone 3 years. But I think it's a legitimate question. So much can change, and it's a fluid situation with the Rays and very complicated situation too. I think there's going to be extreme change with that franchise in the next 2 to 3 years. I think somebody else will be owning it. And whoever that new ownership group is going to be, I think they're going to figure out a way to stay here because you want to stay here. I think the region can support it. The 11th largest television market. We have 4 million people plus throughout the Tampa Bay region in this area. Figure it out. All right, your calls and texts coming up. Ross Tucker at 5 o'clock. Would you rather at 5:30? We're way late for a break because Mathis is yelling at me. Listen, no one ever needs a break, as the late, great Big Dog once said. But we'll take it anyway. All right, coming up next, there's something happening with Liam Cohen as we speak. There's breaking NFL news on that and a whole lot more. And head coaching rumblings, too, throughout the NFL. That's coming up next on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, on your ride home, be careful out there. All right, be careful. Because an injury accident can happen to anyone. It happened to me. When it happened to me, I got on the phone with my guys over at Catania and Catania. Now, they've been watching my back the last several months. They've been keeping me, updated on what's been going on with everything. They've been very supportive, and that's what they've been doing for the Tampa Bay area for the last 30 years. They don't get paid unless you get paid, so they work on that contingency. So if you or someone you love has been involved in an injury accident, product liability, medical malpractice, Social Security disability, God forbid, wrongful death, these are the guys you need to call. Here's the number. 813-222-8545. Copy it down. Save it into your phone because you might need it one day. That's 813-222-8545. Or get a free evaluation of your case. Go online at CataniaandCatania.com, where they put families first. Office Tampa. I'm not an attorney spokesman.
Ballet on iHeartRadio, I'm Amy Snyder.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
You're locked into The Drive with TKras, presented by Moss Nissan on WDAE.
4:34 and your ride home on this Would You Rather Wednesday. That segment is coming up at 5:30. Tom Krasnick with you. It's The Drive. Hope you had a great Hump Day Wednesday. Chris Mathis on the other side. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Great discussion there with John Romano of the Tampa Bay Times. You can read his article at tampabay.com if you so choose. Ross Tucker is coming up at 5 o'clock as well. More Bucs in NFL with him. And I'll discuss with him the Buccaneer loss of the Commanders, the fate of offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, who, as we speak, is up in Jacksonville, and he's interviewing today for the Jaguars head coaching position. Should he take that job if it's offered to him? Now, these jobs don't come around, but, if you're Liam Cohen, you're thinking, okay, I just did a really good job here with the Buccaneers. Top 5 offense in many statistical categories. If I stick around here, Todd Bowles might be long for this job. Maybe I can take over here where I know everybody and everybody knows me. As opposed to going up to Jacksonville, you go from working for the Glazers to working for Shad Khan. I don't think he wants that dynamic. Trent Baalke, too, that GM. And not a whole lot of people want to work with. We'll talk to Ross Tucker about that coming up at 5 o'clock. But we'll keep you updated. Now, the Jaguars, with the Cohen interview, have now interviewed 6 candidates for their head coaching job. So they're talking to a number of other people. I know Ben Johnson was one of the guys that interviewed with them as well. Ben Johnson is the guy, the hot coaching candidate. Aaron Glenn, who came out today and said, hey, I know that a lot of people have been talking to me. I'm talking to a lot of people, but I'm focused on my job, which he's done a tremendous job with all the injuries that he's had to endure. The Lions will take on the Commanders this weekend in the NFC Divisional playoff round. Of course, that Commanders team that beat the Buccaneers. And Chris Mathis, you came to me before the show. You like to do these little videos that I always have second thoughts about.
You do. But you still partake in them.
So
fair sport.
You came up with an interesting question before the show that you had me do a video on, which was?
It was, since the Commanders knocked out your Buccaneers from the playoffs, will you be pulling from for the Commanders or against the Commanders the rest of the way? As in, if they were to go and win it all, would you be in support of that because the Bucs lost to the best team?
That would be a no for me. And I like Jaden Daniels a lot. And, that was the other thing. Like, a lot of Bucs fans are like, I can't believe we just lost to another rookie quarterback. He's just not another rookie quarterback. Like, have you been watching Jaden Daniels all year? He's special. And I'll tell you this. This might be a hot take. Or may not be. If you watch the guy play, you know he's special. I think one day Jaden Daniels will win a Super Bowl. I think he's that good. And you saw it over the weekend. Here he is, a rookie. He plays with a lot of poise. Nothing seems to bother him. Nothing seems to faze him. He's got extraordinary athletic ability, great arm, great head on his shoulders. He doesn't panic when the game is on the line. He's not just another rookie quarterback that the Buccaneers couldn't beat. This kid is a special talent. He is. Now, just to wrap up your conversation there, Chris Mathis, no, I'm not rooting for the Commanders this weekend. In fact, I think they get smoked by the Lions. I think smoked.
Like tuna.
Smoked.
Like tuna dip, man.
Jerk store would have smoked that guy.
Hey, I thought it was a fair question, though, because if my team were to lose, of course, I wouldn't be mad, honestly. I'm one of those that would like to see history. I'm not mad if Kansas City wins and three-peats. But aside from that, I would be pulling for Washington because then the Bucs lost to the best team.
Yeah. A lot of people kind of feel that way, but I don't. Listen, I think the Buccaneers could have won that game. 2 big mistakes made by the offense. Kind of like the Cowboys game. Everyone blames Bowles for the Cowboys game. Like, were you watching the game? And look, in every NFL game, there's back and forth, okay? There's ebbs and flows. And every game, for the most part, comes down to a couple of plays. The Cowboys game were the 2 egregious turnovers by the offense. Jalen McMillan had that ball taken away from him in the end zone on a deep pass, which should have been a touchdown. Maybe Baker could have led McMillan a little bit better on that pass. And then Bucs get the ball back with a chance for a game-winning drive, and then Rachaad White had the ball ripped out of his hands with the game on the line. The defense is awful that night. Really? And I'm not saying they were great because they weren't great. The Bucs held the Cowboys to 3 points in the second half. They lost the game, in my opinion, because of those 2 big turnovers. And then the Commanders game, and look, defensively, they couldn't get off the field, but the Commandos had first and goal at the 1, and they got nothing. 0. Do some of you remember that? Or were you too busy smoking pot? Stay off the drugs. And then a couple of seconds later, the ill-fated jet sweep. That was fumbled and recovered by Bobby Wagner at the Buccaneer 13-yard line. That was a monumental play. Huge. Well, let's just not even look at that because we want the head coach fired. And he may very well get fired. He's not the greatest coach, but he shouldn't be fired now. 888-546-4620. Ross Tucker's coming up at 5. Scotty's in Clearwater. Scotty, what's going on? You got about 30 seconds, bud.
Okay, real quick. Got 2 quick picks for you. Take the Rams in the points and take Notre Dame in the points. And as far as Stu Sternberg crying about attendance, he's bought the team for $160 million. He's going to sell for over $1 billion. Yeah. I don't want to hear any more crying about any attendance. Thank you very much. Well,
look, and the attendance is a factor, whether you want to admit it or not. And yes, he is going to make money hand over fist. He's going to make over $1 billion if and when he does sell the team. And I agree with your picks, by the way. I think the Eagles, and I had them on upset alert last weekend, and if the Packers didn't lose, all of their bodies, they were running out of bodies. The Eagles didn't play well last weekend. You had your star receiver reading books on the sideline, which to me, again, was just the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a long time. You're in the middle of a playoff game. You should be engaged into what you are doing. Like if you're at work, okay, and you're doing something else like playing on your phone, that's bad. You're not showing your employer your full attention while you're on their time. You're doing something else. That's what A.J. Brown did. The Eagles are ripe, and they should be well aware of the Rams. Sean McVay completely coached the pants off his former pupil there, Kevin O'Connell, and Nick Sirianni on the other side. Guess what? It could be another masterclass this week. I give the Rams more of a puncher's chance. I'm taking the points as well. Notre Dame, too. I'll take the points, too. All right, when we come back, the Lightning. What the hell happened to them last night? And it goes deeper than that. A star player sat the game out, and he wasn't hurt. And we'll tell you why he didn't play last night next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, you know how much I love bourbon. I absolutely love it. And I was very happy to see our friends over at Chattanooga Whiskey back in the saddle for 2025. And if you're looking for a new bourbon in the new year, may I recommend the award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey, especially the Chattanooga Whiskey 91. I've got the 91 in my home, the 111. The Bottled in Bond is also a tremendous addition from Chattanooga Whiskey, but their 91 is their signature Tennessee high malt recipe. Their malt-forward approach to bourbon. It has a very smooth, clean taste. 91 proof, which means you can mix it with old fashions. It is fantastic. Or you can do it with a little bit of ice, with a cigar. Or if you want to have it neat, you can do it that way. There are so many ways to consume it. Chattanooga Whiskey 91 is a winner. So ask for it today at your local bar or retailer, wherever your favorite booze just happens to be sold. Drink Chattanooga Whiskey, and always, guys,
helping you get on with your day. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
The Drive is live with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
We've had a standard, since I've been here, it's like 12 years, whatever it's been, that it's professional sports and it's nobody's kind of above the law. And it's unfortunate because it's been a game we could have really needed him. But the one that probably feels the worst about it is Pointer, because he's such a great guy and great team guy.
I have great respect for that man right there. Lightning head coach John Cooper. And this is why he's one of the best coaches in hockey. He's one of the best coaches I think we've seen here in the Tampa Bay area ever. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So Blackjack Braden Point was late to the arena yesterday before their game in Boston. And guess what? He was benched last night, even though he's one of their best players, leads the NHL in power play goals. He's having a great year. Great year. But if you know John Cooper and if you follow the Lightning, you know that he doesn't care what your status is. If you break team rules, whether you're a superstar player or the last guy on the bench, you're going to pay the price. And this is the first time Braden Point has missed a team meeting. He did this 5, almost 6 years ago in Philadelphia. Was benched then. Last year, Eric Chernak, benched, similar infraction. And if you remember, this is a guy in John Cooper, he has benched his best players. Remember a couple years ago, he benched Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, doesn't matter. He benched Kucherov a few years back. The rules are the rules, and that's why you got to respect what John Cooper does. And as for last night, it was an awful night for the Lightning. They fell behind again, which has been a common theme this season. They were down 2-0 at the end of one, and then 2 more goals by Boston 6 minutes into the second period. And then it was 4-0, and that's it. Game over. Goodbye. Drive home safely. So the Lightning have to figure out a way to get off to better starts, because that's been one of their biggest problems this year. And hopefully they can figure it out with Anaheim coming to Amalie Arena. That's the Lightning's next game, and that will take place tomorrow. 7 o'clock face-off time tomorrow night at Amalie. So be the Thunder, get there. The Ducks beat the Lightning, by the way. It was another one of those just awful starts that they had in the game in Anaheim. Game against the Devils, another slow start. So it's happened consistently, and the Lightning have to figure it out. I know Victor Hedman was like, if we figured it out, we would fix it. Well, fix it. Now, last night, after the fight between Lilleberg and Frederick, that gave the Lightning a little bit of juice. They scored a couple of goals. They got it to 4-2, but they couldn't get any closer than that. Is that what it's going to take? Maybe you drop the gloves, within the first few seconds of the game. Choke him. Jeez.
I should have broke your thumb.
So that gave him a little extra oomph. But they need that extra oomph coming out of the locker room before the opening faceoff. And we really haven't seen it out of the Lightning. They need to get off to better starts. You can't be sleepwalking, through 20 minutes, and then you got 40 minutes left to try and make it up. Not in this league. There are too many good teams out there that can bury you if you get off to bad starts, and then you can't climb out of that hole. All right, 2 hours down, 2 more hours to go. Coming up, your next opportunity to win $1,000. Anybody can use $1,000. Get on it. You're going to hear the nationwide keyword. When you hear it, you go to our website, 953WDA.com. You can use that money to buy Lightning tickets, or you can take me and Chris Mathis out to lunch. I think we would be all for that. Or you can buy me a box of cigars or some Chattanooga whiskey. It's a beautiful thing. $1,000 could be yours. Stand by. That is coming up in a matter of moments. Also coming up, he's ready. One of the best NFL analysts we have that will be joining us. What's the Buccaneers' ceiling next year? What do they need to do to compete for a Super Bowl? And is Todd Bowles the guy? And who should be on upset alert this weekend? We'll talk Bucs and NFL with our guy Ross Tucker next here on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, kick off the new year by impressing her with a timeless diamond from my friends over at the Golden Diamond Source. And look, if you're ready to pop the big question, you can find the perfect engagement ring at the Golden Diamond Source. Now, our young Chris Mathis did just that. He got his engagement ring. He's recently engaged. He proposed to his now fiancée, Lily, over on the beach. It was a very nice job out of you, Chris Mathis. And Lily was so impressed by the diamond. And she said, "Oh, my God, yes, I'll marry you, Chris Mathis. Just trim your mustache." You get the idea. Make her January birthday or her 2nd and 6th wedding anniversaries unforgettable with up to 15% off Garnet, which is the January birthstone. While you're there, guys, discover Emilique by Emily Johnson Weintraub, a sleek and modern jewelry line that makes everyday gifts extraordinary. Turn old and unused gold into cold, hard cash or a stunning new piece. With gold prices soaring, there's no better time to trade up than right now, guys. Head on over to the Golden Diamond Source. They're at 3800
Petersburg, an iHeart radio station. It's Wednesday from Indian Rocks Beach to Land O'Lakes and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
As far as ourselves are concerned, we don't worry about external expectations. Our internal expectations are for us to go to the Super Bowl, injury or regardless. Our internal expectations are to go to the Super Bowl. We did not get that accomplished. We did some good things throughout the year, yes. We had guys injured, yes. We got to the playoffs, yes. But our expectations are to win the Super Bowl.
Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers failed to live up to those expectations. Now an offseason of questions, and is Bowles the guy to get them there? Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. Welcome back. 5:03 on your ride home. The drive with yours truly, TKras, Tom Krasnicki, presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side. More of your calls and texts coming up. Would you rather coming up at the bottom of the hour as well? NFL Divisional playoff action this weekend. We have a number of very interesting games. So who should be on upset alert? Let's get the answers to all these questions right now on the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's standing by, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You should follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. Former NFL offensive lineman, the pride of Princeton, Ross Tucker, is back with us here on the drive. Ross, Happy New Year, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, likewise, TKras. I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, and it's great to have you on. And before we get to the divisional playoff action this weekend, let's talk about the Bucs and a disappointing end to their season. I got to say, though, and I know you'll agree, Jaden Daniels, and a lot of Bucs fans are unhappy. Oh, another rookie quarterback beat us. This ain't no average rookie quarterback. Jaden Daniels is special, isn't he?
He really is. And it's interesting because I've been saying for basically all year that I'd rather have Jaden Daniels than Caleb Williams. And some people think that that's hindsight, but I don't pretend to be like an expert, Tom, in quarterback play. But all the guys that are and came on my show this offseason, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, before the draft, they either outright said that they liked, Jaden Daniels more than Caleb Williams, or just by the way they talked, you sort of inferred that. I mean, I'm telling you, Greg Cosell, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Chase Daniel, Bill Sims, even your former guy, Sean King, I could tell that those guys liked Jaden Daniels better than Caleb Williams. I mean, they said he was the best pure pocket passer. We could all see he was the most athletic in terms of running. So I was a little confused as to why everyone was acting like Caleb Williams was the clear number one.
Well, Jaden Daniels has certainly proven that. They're into the divisional round. We'll get into that in a matter of moments. In terms of the Bucs, 10 wins. They win their division for their fourth straight year, but one and done in the playoffs. Some fans here don't think Todd Bowles is the guy moving forward. From the outside looking in, your thoughts on the Bucs season and what do they need to do in the offseason to be mentioned among those elite?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think that it was not a great finish to the year for Todd Bowles on a lot of levels. I think there were several games where you could point to questionable game and or clock management, but I would say maybe more concerning than that is, I mean, they didn't get the Commanders to punt once. Not once the whole game. And I know he's a good quarterback and they're doing a nice job with him, but and maybe you could argue, hey, they only gave up 23 points. That's not too bad, and I think there's some truth to that. But still, I mean, you don't give them the punt once. You don't turn them over once. That said, in fairness to Bowles, if Baker doesn't mess up that handoff or whatever happened with McMillan, and if Graham Barton doesn't snap the ball early, either one of those things don't happen, the Bucs probably win the game, and we're having a different conversation right now.
Ross Tucker is with me. He is the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You can follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. They need an edge rusher this offseason. I think they need another corner. Are those the priorities for the Buccaneers, you think?
Well, certainly it feels like defense is, right?
Yep.
I mean, obviously you feel good about Baker. You feel good about the receivers, especially if Chris can come back healthy. Thought the O-line had a really nice year. They've done a terrific job, Jason Light has, of kind of regrouping and revamping that group. They were definitely a top 10 offensive line this year, maybe even top 5, which is pretty impressive considering where it felt like they were a couple years ago on the interior. So that's huge. I think, and obviously Cade Otton at tight end. I think, and Bucky Irving and Rashad White. I mean, I think offense is in a really good spot. I think it's defense for sure at corner and D-line. But even the D tackles you feel good about. So corner and edge rusher, yeah, I think you nailed it, TKras.
Ross Tucker is with me. And look, as a former offensive lineman, just speak to how impressive it is to have Tristan Wirfs being named the All-Pro left tackle 2 years after he was named All-Pro right tackle. That's never happened before in the history of this award. Might we be looking at one of this generation's great offensive linemen here, Ross? Because I think Tristan is.
Well, that is extremely impressive. And I was just going to ask you, who's the last guy that ever did that? And you answered me. It's never been done before.
No, never been done.
Which is super impressive. Yeah, I mean, that was a home run pick. And I didn't know how the move to left would go for him. I think sometimes you're going into a little bit of more athletic guys on that side at times, although that's been mitigated a little bit in recent years. He's just a super, super impressive player. And to do it on either side of the line is, like you said, never been done before. I don't think people realize it takes a lot of work because you're so used to a right-handed stance. You're so used to having your left hand be your inside hand. You're so used to pushing off your left leg. It's like doing everything opposite. He had to put a lot of time in and a lot of work to get that competent that fast on the left side.
He sure did, and he equated it to kind of wiping your backside with your opposite hand, not to get too graphic, but those were his words. That's how he said he made the transition. That's how difficult it was. You're doing everything in reverse. So he looks like a great one for many, many years to come. I want to get your thoughts on this weekend's divisional action. You saw the Eagles and the Packers over the weekend. Tell me, you played in the NFL. Have you ever seen a player so disengaged that he pulls out a book and starts reading a book on the sidelines? I mean, was that the most oddest scene that you've ever seen? Talk about A.J. Brown, of course.
Yeah, no, I've never seen that before. That was a new one for me. I'll say this, he is a fantastic player. So maybe that was my problem. Maybe I should have been reading books on the sideline, during the games. Maybe I would have been better. I mean, like whatever he's doing, whatever helps him, keep doing it. I didn't realize that he's been doing that or that that's part of his routine. I'd never seen it before, but whatever works, I guess. Although I would imagine the NFL would close that loophole this offseason, considering the guy's book became the #1 bestseller. I mean,
no kidding.
There's going to be a lot of people now that are going to be asking players to take books out to the sideline, and the NFL can't have that.
No, they can't. So I think the Rams got a puncher's chance. I mean, Sean McVay, you saw what they did to the Vikings on Monday night. If Matthew Stafford obviously is on his game, and that defense, Jared Verse, is something else. So how'd you handicap that game between the Rams and the Eagles this weekend?
So what's so interesting about that is, the last couple of years, the Bucs have really had the Eagles' number. You think about the playoff game last year. You think about regular season earlier this year before the bye for the Eagles, before they inserted Cooper DeJean at nickel. Todd Bowles and the
and the Bucs really kind of had the Eagles' number. Well, it's the opposite with the Rams. I mean, the Eagles have gone out to L.A. the last couple of years and beaten them by double digits. And so it's never easy to beat a good team twice in the same year. You're never easy to beat a team 3 times, but the Eagles have really gotten the better of the Rams up front on both sides of the ball the last couple of years. I'll be really curious to see if that plays out any differently in this game.
I know we only have about a minute left. Bills and the Ravens, that's the game I'm looking forward to. Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar. I like what the Ravens are doing offensively. I think Derrick Henry is probably the X factor, and defensively they're playing a little bit better. But what say you there?
Well, I hate that whoever loses this game is going to be a disappointing year, but that's just the reality. You know, it's going to be okay. We didn't even get to the conference championship game this year. It's one of the best divisional round games I can ever remember. It's super, like legitimate Super Bowl caliber teams, right, on both sides. I think that the Ravens have the better team. I do think Henry's a major factor, but Lamar has not played his best in Buffalo. He has not played his best in the postseason. Josh Allen is Superman at times in the postseason. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be like 27-24, 34-31. Could go either way. Probably one turnover one way or the other is the difference. It's going to be an absolutely awesome game, or at least I hope it is.
Me too. All right, Ross, tell us about futurefans.com. By far the best way to get your kids to love and understand football, so tell us about it.
Dude, Tom, I just found out about this, and I'm so mad that I didn't know about this a couple years ago when my daughters were younger. You know how it's so hard to, like, explain to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old how football works with the downs and the yards and all that? These guys have cracked the code. These guys have, like, the ultimate dad hack. They're Bengals fans. I remember a couple years ago when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, they couldn't get their kids to watch the games with them because their kids didn't understand it. Well, they came up with this storybook-led activity box. So it's a book that you read with your kid, and then there's activities like a ring toss that teaches them how you do the 4 downs. Now they get their kids to sit there and watch a whole Bengals game or a whole Ohio State or Michigan game. It's awesome. Like if you have anybody listening with kids like 4 to 10 or grandkids or nieces, nephews, whatever, you got to check out futurefans.com. I think they even have expedited shipping for the playoffs. But think about how awesome it would be if your child or grandchild would sit there and watch the whole game with you, every Bucs game next year, and live and die with you. It'd be amazing. It's called futurefans.com. Futurefans.com. It's awesome.
It is awesome, as are you, Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Podcast. Follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. Ross, really appreciate a couple of minutes. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the games this weekend, my friend.
Sounds great. See you, Tom. Thanks, man.
You got it. That's Ross Tucker. Great stuff there. Just like A.J. Brown reading that book, and the author of that book is elated because his book, as we mentioned yesterday, went to number 1 on Amazon. Number 1 after A.J. Brown was caught reading, what was it, The Inner Excellence?
Yeah, I think it was Inner Excellence. It jumped from 547, 337th, something like that on the list of Amazon books. All the way up to number 1.
Oh, my gosh. That's
ka-ching. You want some? You want ka-ching, ka-ching? Yeah, everywhere, left and right.
And unbelievable. Unbelievable is right. But there are some intriguing games this weekend, and Ross is right. It's a damn shame that the loser of that Bills and Ravens game, though, that their fan bases and that team is going to be crushed. Crushed. Out in the divisional round, crushed. It would be a failure for the Bills. It would be a failure for the Ravens because both of these teams have extremely high hopes, and I think both are capable of beating the Chiefs in Kansas City, believe it or not. And I know Lamar Jackson has struggled in the playoffs. He didn't struggle last week. I just have a feeling that I think it's his time. And I love Josh Allen and the Bills mob. Look, Bills fans are tremendous fans. I mean, my goodness. They've been diehard fans for a long time. I don't agree with, jumping through tables and, the other silliness they do before the games, setting tables on fire and just diving through them. I mean, come on. I mean, mental health right there is at the forefront of a lot of our problems. And all you got to do is watch Bills fans do their thing before the games. And before that game on Sunday, they'll be doing all sorts of chicanery in the parking lot before the game. My goodness. But that game is going to be straight up fire Sunday night. Lamar on one side, Josh on the other side, Bills and Ravens for the right to go to the AFC Championship game. I don't think anyone expects Houston to give Kansas City any trouble. So Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will be awaiting the winner of that game. And, the Chiefs, listen, man, they make their own breaks, don't they? I don't want to say luck because Andy Reid is great. Patrick Mahomes is great. So is Kelsey. So is Chris Jones. That's a great team, and they had a great year. But man, oh man, if you followed them, especially the game against the Bucs, they always get a lucky bounce to go their way. All the time.
When will it end, Tom?
It's going to end before the Super Bowl. I think.
Before the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
They don't even get there.
I don't think they're going to get there. Believe it or not. Even though the AFC Championship game will be played there at Arrowhead. I really like what I see out of the Ravens. I think their defense has come around. Again, if you can run it and stop the run, which the Ravens can do with both Lamar and Derrick Henry in terms of running the football, and they can stop the run as well. Their defense has been stout. You can win anywhere, and that's why I had high hopes for the Buccaneers, because the Bucs could run it, and they can stop the run too. I had hopes that because they can do both, that they would have a chance to maybe win a game or two and have a good postseason run. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. My goodness. But I think the Ravens, man, I think the Ravens are that team. I think it's going to be a great game. And I agree with Ross. I think it's a close game in Buffalo on Sunday night. I think the Ravens find a way. 31-27, somewhere in that range. 31-28. 30-27. But Lamar Jackson right now is playing at a completely different level than just about anybody else at the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels is playing at a high level too, and that's Lamar Jackson 2.0. That's the NFC's version of Lamar, and the Bucs just saw him over the weekend. But I'll tell you this, the Lions are waiting. They're getting guys healthy. They got Alex Anzalone healthy. They're getting Terrion Arnold and David Montgomery healthy this weekend. I think the Commanders' season comes to a screeching halt this weekend in the Motor City. The Lions are going to be way too tough for them. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Interesting stuff there from Ross Tucker. You have the Rams and the Eagles, too. Another very interesting game. I mean, look, the Rams were manhandled by the Eagles during the regular season. But I saw a very interesting stat this morning that Sean McVay, since he's been with the Rams in 12 playoff games, they have never allowed a 100-yard rusher. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe it when I saw that this morning. Saquon Barkley, though, he's a different kind of animal, and he's already torn up the Rams. But that Rams defense is playing a lot better now, and they're getting after it. They had 9 sacks of Sam Darnold the other night. Some of those sacks were Darnold's fault, by the way. The guy just holds on to the ball way too long, and he did it the week before against the Lions. Is Minnesota's offensive line good? I mean, since Christian Darrisaw went out with that season-ending injury, yeah, they took a hit. And some of those sacks, you can argue, was on the line's fault. But I'm telling you, Sam Darnold holds on to the ball way, way too long for my liking. Way too long. And I think the Vikings are going to let him walk.
And there were a couple of clips there whenever he would either get sacked or turn the football over where Coach O'Connell, you see him on the sideline and just his facial expression, it was kind of telltale as far as how he feels.
No,
or how he felt regarding those mistakes. Like, you can't be getting yourself in those situations.
You got to throw the ball away, and that's something that Sam Darnold has done really throughout the entire pro career. When he got drafted by the Jets, it was the same thing. And now he didn't have the infrastructure there with the Jets to, make himself a top-notch quarterback, O-line receivers. He had none of that. No help whatsoever. But he always has held on to the ball way too long, dude. Get outside of the tackle box. You got to throw it away. There are certain situations you got to be smart about. You can't just take sacks and lose 6, 7, 8, 9 yards. And then all of a sudden you're 2nd and 19, and then you're fighting an uphill battle. Get rid of it, dude. 888-546-4620. That's the phone number. Text at 82945. We're on until 7 o'clock. A check of traffic is coming up. Also, on the way back, we've got a very interesting, if not uncomfortable edition of Would You Rather. So, if you're Liam Cohen, would you rather stay with the Buccaneers or take the Jacksonville job if it's offered? And if you're the Buccaneers, would you rather have Chris Godwin return or Levante David? Very difficult choices indeed, but we're not afraid. We're going to embrace it. Would you rather is going to be entertaining, it's going to be raucous, it's going to be controversial, and it's coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
On your ride home on this wacky hump day, be careful out there because an injury accident can happen to anybody. Car accident, motorcycle accident, truck accident. It happened to me, and look, it's obviously very scary. It could be horrifying. It can be obviously taxing mentally and physically, both ways. You need to protect your rights if something like this should happen. If you've been the victim of an injury accident or someone you love, call my guys over at Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing the last 30 years. They don't get paid unless you get paid, and they're been getting a lot of money for their clients. Almost $1 billion with a B has been recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. So give them a call. They're watching my back. They'll have your back as well. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or get a free evaluation of your case online at Catania and Catania.com, where they put
NFL.com.
Strap in and buckle up. This is The Drive with TKras, brought to you by Moss Nissan on WDAE.
Oh, no, the game has yet to officially begin.
What exactly is the game?
None yet. Well, it is not a quiz or a trivia contest, nor is it a test of brute strength or athleticism. At its core, it's just a children's game, and I would wager that some of you here this evening have played Would You Rather at some point.
Yeah, we're playing that game now. Would You Rather on Wednesdays, and it's presented by our friends over at Tampa General Hospital in partnership with the Florida Orthopedic Institute. They provide you access to one of the top orthopedic programs in the nation. Schedule an appointment today at floridaortho.com. And here's our guy, executive producer Chris Mathis.
All right, Tampa Bay. Tom, I'm going to put you in some interesting situations. You got to pick one or the other. If you were Deion Sanders, would you rather coach the Dallas Cowboys without your sons there, or coach the Raiders and have both your kids on the roster?
Dallas without his sons, or the Raiders with both of their kids?
Right, with both of his kids.
Oh,
Dallas,
man.
Obviously, the city for him, you know.
Yeah,
but LA would be fun.
He's got that close
Or
relationship
Vegas.
with Jerry, and Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders have spoken this week about the Cowboys head coaching job. Now you got the Raiders. You got Tommy Boy there as well.
So what's the question?
The question here, Tommy, is have you talked to Deion Sanders? You obviously don't care about crossing lines and conflict of interest or anything like that because you're still the Fox NFL analyst as well as being the minority owner of the Raiders. So
No.
what?
You insulted him a little bit.
Would you want Deion Sanders being your coach, Tommy Boy? If I were Deion Sanders, I think I would rather be the Cowboys coach without my sons. I think there's still some talent there. And look, if he goes to the Raiders, he's going to be at a severe disadvantage in that division. Why? Look at the other coaches in that division. Andy Reid in Kansas City. You got Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers in L.A., Sean Payton with the Broncos. The question here is, would you rather have Deion Sanders as the coach of the Raiders or some other slapdick prospect there, Coach Payton? So if I were Deion, he loves the Cowboys. He loves Jerry. It's the better brand. I think that's the better career move for him. And I think in a division where I know Jaden Daniels is there and the Eagles are there, the Giants stink, I think it's a far more easier road to navigate than that of the AFC West with all those great coaches out there.
Tom, here's a tough one for you. We all want the Rays.
These are all tough, apparently.
We all want the Rays to go out and win a World Series, especially in a year like this in which they're going to be playing at Steinbrenner Field. It's an outdoor stadium. Not sure how all that would shake out, Eric Neander, if they were to make a playoff run and maybe make the World Series too. So, would you rather the Rays make it to the World Series this year and come up short by just one run in Game 7, or the Lightning go out and win a Stanley Cup in 4 games?
None yet.
So you get the championship, 4-game sweep. We've already seen the Lightning championship, or the Rays get so close but no cigar and are playing at Steinbrenner Field.
You're always going for the championship. I would rather see the Lightning win a championship than the Rays to get to Game 7 and lose by 1 run. You always want the title. This is Title Town now. This is Tampa Bay. This is how it's been now for the last 6 or 7 years now. So you always want the championship, not the almost or near chance at getting one. So I'm going to take the Lightning hoisting another Stanley Cup.
Would you rather be handed $1 million up front, Tom, right here, right now?
Done.
Or a chance at $10 million if you can get a hit against Shane McClanahan with 5 pitches?
Dude, I'm not getting a hit again. I'm not making
contact. You're not even taking that chance.
No, I'm not. There's no way. There's no way. I'm taking my $1 million and saying thank you very much. I'll see you on the other side.
Sounds like a small loan, right? Just $1 million?
$1 million, dude, is not chump change, okay? There's no way that I get into the batter's box thinking that I'm even going to make contact against Shane McClanahan. Forget about getting a hit off him for $10 million. There's no way. I'm smart. Listen, Clint Eastwood said it best in one of those spaghetti westerns. A man's got to know his limitations. I don't know if it was a Spaghetti Westerns or maybe a Dirty Harry movie. It was a Clint Eastwood line. You got to know your limitations in life. There's no way I'm getting a hit off McClanahan. I'll take the $1 million. Thank you very much.
Here's a heavy hitter for you since you're not hitting the ball inside the batter's box, Tom. Looking like the Rays offense. Would you rather keep Levante David?
Even though you everything we do.
Kevin Cash chimes in. Levante David or Chris Godwin and have him back next year?
Oh, my gosh. Oh.
Heavy hitter.
This is heavy. Now, is this just a one-year proposition?
Yeah, this is a 1-year thing.
Then I'm taking Levante David. And the reason why is I think the Bucs need Levante David more on defense, believe it or not, than they do Chris Godwin on offense. As crazy as that sounds, with the emergence of Jalen McMillan on that side, look, even after Chris Godwin was lost for the season, the Bucs were still a top 3 offense in all of football. So I think Jalen McMillan can step in and be the number 2. Now, selfishly, I think there's a chance that Godwin and Levante both come back. But in this scenario that you're laying out in front of me, I think I would rather take Levante back. His leadership skills on the defensive side, I think he could still play. It's a need position. They need defense. So I think I would rather have Levante.
Let's put yourself in the shoes of 39-year-old Liam Cohen, who comes off a great first year's offensive coordinator with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Are you professional or not?
Would you rather stay here in Tampa Bay, become the OC at least one more year, and be the coach in waiting, potentially?
Potentially.
Or go elsewhere as far as Jacksonville is concerned and be the guy right away next season?
So is it any head coaching job outside of Tampa Bay, or we're just talking about Jacksonville?
Let's do Jacksonville. Let's narrow it down. Jacksonville.
Then
you got Trevor Lawrence.
I'm staying here. And look, I realize being offered a head coaching spot in the NFL, and as Dave Canales mentioned a year ago, listen, no matter where it is, even if it's for a dopey owner like the guy up in Carolina, what's his name? The guy who spills drinks on people.
Yeah, rough one, right?
It was rough. You're still going to take that opportunity. And Dave Canales was right in doing so. It didn't look good for a while, but toward the end, Dave Canales did an extraordinary job in turning Bryce Young around. That dude looks like a player. He looks like a completely different person thanks to Dave Canales. Now, if I'm Liam Cohen, I'm not taking the Jacksonville job. I'm going to stay here. Maybe the Glazers sweeten the pot. They offer him more money. And maybe the thought of him being the next guy in line, whatever happens to Bowles next year or the year after. I'm familiar with Baker. I've got a tremendous top 3 O-line. You know, Ross Tucker said top 10, top 5. No, the Bucs have a top 3 O-line. What? I'm not trying to stir anything up, Baker. I'm just saying, top 3 O-line. You're the man. You're the franchise quarterback. We're trying to get you back on the show. I hope you're listening. I hope somebody close to Baker is listening, because it's time to make amends and time to make that happen, and hopefully that will happen. Look, just to stay on point here, if I'm Liam, I'm staying here. I know the personnel. We were top 3. We can be even better next year if Chris Godwin comes back and they make some refinements in terms of the scheme and whatnot. I'm not taking the Jacksonville job. Shad Khan is just a little off the wall. If Trent Baalke's the guy up there, no thanks.
No thanks. All right, let's say you're Buccaneer general manager Jason Light. Would you rather lose the playoff game due to bad coaching and decision-making or play on the field?
Oh, well, look, I mean, I think that really kind of goes hand in hand. If you're losing, there's got to be something happening from a coaching perspective. And look, and here's what fans need to realize. All right, everyone's banging on Todd Bowles, and some of it is justified. However, players have to make plays. If you're Baker and Jalen McMillan, that's a play they've run 1,000 times on the jet sweep. The timing of that has to be exactly pinpoint perfect, or else. Yeah, I did say that, Levi. And then you saw what happened. So, I mean, look, if you're losing because of both of those things, right?
Right, yeah. But if you had to pinpoint one or the other or blame more or have it be a problem over the other, which one are you more okay with?
I'm more okay with players not making plays, because The ones that made the big mistakes against the Commandos were young players. I know Baker Mayfield was part of the whole snap with Jalen McMillan, and Baker will always take blame, and that's what leaders do. Great leaders will always take blame, even though it's not completely their fault. The Graham Barton snap, was a young player making a bad mistake. Those young players will learn from those mistakes eventually.
A final one for you. It is Would You Rather. We'll continue here. Of Joe Montana and Patrick Mahomes in their prime, who would you rather start in the Super Bowl?
Oh, man. I'm going to say Joe Montana, and here's why, okay? And this will get pushback. But follow me on this.
All right, I'm listening.
Joe Montana's never lost a Super Bowl. Last time I checked, they didn't tell you. They didn't go up there and tell you. Patrick Mahomes did lose a Super Bowl, and he lost it to the Buccaneers, and he got completely shut down by Todd Bowles, by the way, the Bucs defense. Some fans, I don't know, short-term memory loss. Maybe you forgot about that. Maybe you forgot about it. They didn't go up there and tell you. That was Todd Bowles who engineered that. And he stinks. He's done nothing. Joe Montana was flawless in the Super Bowl. Flawless. And I'm not saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes, but the question that you're asking in a Super Bowl setting, who would I rather have in their prime? Give me Joe Montana, because that dude was unflappable. 88-yard drive against Boomer Esiason and the Bengals. I remember that like it was yesterday, back in the late 80s. The dude was unblemished in Super Bowl competition. Smoked them.
And there you have it. That is Would You Rather.
Yes, sir. And it's brought to you by our guys over at Tampa General Hospital in partnership with the Florida Orthopedic Institute. Again, they provide you access to one of the top orthopedic programs in the nation. Schedule an appointment today at floridaortho.com. Chris Mathis, I have to commend you, young man. That was
good.
That was one of the better Would You Rathers ever.
Really? It's been 2 years.
We've been doing this segment for God knows how long. That was stupendous.
Wow, I will take that. I have something to be excited about on my way home.
Yes.
Maybe some chocolate milk tonight to celebrate. I might just do that. I should have shut up there, right?
Chocolate milk.
Come on. I'll tweet out a photo tonight of the chocolate milk.
You were fine until you mentioned chocolate milk. What's the matter with you? A texter, a man's got to know his limitations. It was Dirty Harry. It was Magnum Force. Thank you. And he had some classic lines from the spaghetti westerns, the good, the bad, and the ugly, obviously, that we've turned into a segment on Mondays. Fistful of Dollars was my favorite. Clint Eastwood spaghetti western. You got the Baxters on one side, you got the Rojos on the other side, and me right in the middle. Crazy bell ringer was right. There's money to be made in a town like this. Hey, Chris Mathis, you don't know anything about that.
No, but I'm impressed with your recollection.
Well, listen, the Fistful of Dollars is a tremendous movie. Tremendous.
I know Spoonful of Sugar, but I don't know Fistful of Dollars.
See, there you go. It always has to go back to sweets and chocolate milk and milk.
Listen, that was about a movie.
Are you having a sugar, high, or are you in need of, sugar? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm just high on life, man.
Because I got a chocolate bar in here if you want it.
You do?
I do.
How about I'll split it with you?
All right, done.
Cool, let's do that.
All right, when we come back, aside from us eating a chocolate bar, even though we should be getting ready for dinner, eventually dinner will be happening. Not until after 7 because we're here until 7. In case you missed it from earlier today, I had a fascinating conversation with John Romano of the Tampa Bay Times, columnist. You can read him at tampabay.com. He had a very interesting article on Todd Bowles and why the fans should give him a little bit more respect than they do. We also got into a conversation about the Rays, a really good one, about where they're playing now, where they will be 3 years from now, and who might be owning the team. But that's coming up at 6:05. On the way back, Chris Mathis will be back with his chocolate bar, and he's going to let you know what's on tonight. I'll tell you what's not on tonight and who wasn't on last night. Always late to the party, the Lightning, especially one of their players. We'll explain next. A little bit
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, welcome to 2025, and obviously we know what kind of year 2024 was in terms of the hurricanes and the storm damage. So if you're still dealing with roof damages, or if you need a new roof, you got to call on my guy, John Franco, and his amazing team over at Green Tech Roofing and Solar. They are the #1 roofing solution in Tampa Bay. They offer free inspections. They are locally owned, licensed, and trusted by the Tampa Bay communities. And look, beware of those out-of-market companies taking advantage of residents. They're knocking. They're going door to door in some neighborhoods. Don't go with those guys. Go with the trusted guys. I had damage from Hurricane Milton. My guy, John Franco, Green Tech Roofing and Solar, they came over. They fixed the problem. They relieved my worries, and they can do the same for you. Depending upon the size of your home, Green Tech can have your roof completed in a single day, and they'll take care of all of that cleanup for you. You can get a free second opinion and quote. By the way, they do residential and commercial, over 400 5-star reviews. So get in touch with them. Go to greentechroofing.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Green Tech Roofing and Solar. This is Smart Roofing. Tell them I sent you.
At prices you'll love. eBay. Things people love.
Are you shopping for hurricane impact windows? Get your free quote now. ReeseWindows.com.
Now, back to The Drive with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. What's on tonight with The Drive with TKras?
And yes, sir, here he is, the man in the middle of a sugar rush. And I tried to take care of that for him, our executive producer, Chris Mathis.
I have been taken care of. Check us out on Twitter at 95.3 WDAE. And I was hooked up with Kit Kat. Tom had some as well. Hopefully you guys feel as rejuvenated as we do on your drive home, but keep it between the two lines on the road. We've got some college basketball. Number 9, Kansas at number 2, Iowa State tonight.
Oh, that's a big one right there.
On ESPN2. That game will tip off right after our show at 7 o'clock, so don't miss out on that. And then we have free on-demand podcasting for The Drive with our interviews with Ross Tucker. If you missed out on Would You Rather, Tom's opening drive, it's all right there, commercial-free. And yours truly, TKras, he is on TV tonight. TKras.
He's a bum.
For TV, if you want to. TKras on TV, 10:30 tonight, right, Tom?
Yes, 10:30 on Bay News 9, Spectrum Sports 360 program on Bay News 9. Yours truly. I don't have the topics yet, so I'm not sure what we're discussing tonight, but I think we'll be on tonight. And we're usually on Friday and Saturday. Hold on, let me check my... wait a minute.
Sheet.
We do have...
Topics?
Yes. We have Bucs tonight. We're discussing Bucs tonight, and I'll be on Friday and Saturday. So tonight, Friday, Saturday at 10:30 on Bay News 9. So the Spectrum Sports 360 program on Bay News 9. So check it out.
And that is a loaded What's On Tonight.
Yeah, it sure is.
None ya.
888-546-4620 is the phone number. Text at 82945. Oh, the Lightning last night. Jeez, man. Another slow start, and it cost them. And I think it would have helped if Braden Point had played, but he did not. Why? Late to a team meeting. Missed the team meeting, in fact. Got to the arena late. So John Cooper has got this long-standing rule that even if you break the rule, if you miss a team meeting, if you're late, you're benched. And he's done this before. Braden Point has a few years back. Eric Chernak did this last year. And look, this is what you like about John Cooper. And this is why the players respect him, because nobody's above the law. And he talked about this last night. Nobody's above the law. You break a rule, unfortunately, there are consequences. I feel bad about it. I know Blackjack Braden Point feels bad about it. You know, he leads the NHL in power play goals. He's having an extraordinary season, but the rules are the rules, and he broke them. So he sat out last night, and then the Lightning got rolled up in Boston. And they didn't come alive until, I don't know, midway through the second period when Lilleberg gets into a fight with what's-his-face, the Frederick guy over at with the Bruins. It was a great picture, by the way, at the Tampa Bay Times and TampaBay.com. And look at that picture right there. Emil Lilleberg swapping punches with Trent Frederick. And if you look at this is an extraordinary picture, by the way. Extraordinary. They're grabbing each other's jerseys, and Lilleberg has got a right hand coming over the top, and he's about to hit Frederick, and Frederick has got his right hand cocked, and they both have each other's jerseys. And that's how it...
Yeah, I got you.
And that's how it is. You know, you're grabbing part of his jersey with your left hand, and you're punching with your right. That's how all these hockey fights go.
That's a lot of work, man. That's draining for sure. Just trying to defend yourself, number one, but also trying to throw the haymakers.
Yeah, and you know you better land those punches, and you're on skates, so you got to keep your balance. while you're punching the other guy's lights out, and that's basically how it works.
I should have broke your thumb.
You hope you don't get jumped from the other side behind you. I mean, there's a lot going on.
I mean, that doesn't happen.
It could.
I mean, in hockey, unless it's
I would do it.
Unless it, well,
I would skate. Get over here, you know.
Well, what's the matter with you?
I'm a little amped up on chocolate.
You let the guys take care of their own business. Unless it's like a brouhaha, like a Pier 6 brawl, as the late great Gorilla Monsoon once described. But this picture is extraordinary if you look at it, because you can see, like Frederick, he's cocking his fist and ready to throw a punch at Lilleberg. And if you look at his fist, I'm looking at it now, his knuckles, they're all jacked up. They're charred. His knuckles, like his hand is all mangled.
Oh, man.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I do.
Look at that. I mean, that's a guy that's been in a lot of fights. I mean, his knuckles are all mangled up. There's cuts and bruises on there.
Imagine hitting that glass face mask, if you will, that helmet. That would hurt, too.
Well, Frederick had his helmet on, and Lilleberg did not. So that's never a good sign.
Would you rather be, okay, Tom, here's one for you. Would you rather be strong in that other arm, the non-dominant arm, protecting yourself, or strong with the haymakers, if you had to pick one or the other?
Well, the haymakers. Give me the haymakers.
Knock them out.
Because like Mike Tyson, maybe one punch is all it takes, and you take a guy out. But an extraordinary picture. Unfortunately, the Lightning were not extraordinary. They lost 6-2. They got the Ducks coming in here tomorrow. The Ducks, who beat the Lightning last week. By the way, okay, and we haven't discussed this. What happened to the whole Duck thing for the Bucs?
I knew you were going with that.
What happened?
I spoke to Sarah Walsh before the game. She said that she wasn't able to get it done. I don't think her manager or producer wanted it to happen.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, that producer needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Or Sarah. I mean, come on, Sarah. I know her parents are listening too. I mean, they live like in the Newport Richie area. You got to find a duck. There are ducks everywhere. You got to grab a duck the way Ryan Jensen did, and he brought it to the game against the Saints. That's why the Buccaneers lost. Everyone wants to blame it on Todd Bowles. There was no duck. What happened to the luck of the duck?
Is that a Canva, Tom?
No. No, that's not a Canva.
It would be funny, though.
I want to know why there wasn't a duck in the building, or maybe there was one. I don't know. I didn't see one. I forgot to ask Rick Stroud when I saw him in the locker room on Monday. Why wasn't there a duck? Did anyone see a duck? Because I didn't see a duck.
I didn't either.
And you have to have a duck there. That was the thing. We had the luck of the duck going, and now no duck, no win. No wolf, no part. What do you think? And I can't believe that Peyton Manning dropped that line on the Manning cast on Monday night. And I think I was the only dummy in America who got that reference. 2 checks for Peyton Manning, because that was a line from Teen Wolf, the movie back in 1985. The acting teacher, when they put on the play, and Michael J. Fox's character wanted to be in the play because of the hot chick that he had interest in was also in the play. But they wanted him to be the wolf. So, Scott Howard didn't want to be the wolf. And then the director or the acting teacher is like, whoa, you got to be the wolf. Nobody wants to see you. And then Scott Howard's like, with Michael J. I'd rather play the part as myself. And then he's like, let me put it to you this way. No wolf, no part. And Peyton Manning dropped that line on the Manning cast, and I was falling off my recliner laughing my ass off. Because I was the only guy who got that reference. Peyton Manning quoting Teen Wolf 1985. I freaking love it. All right, 3 hours are in the books. Coming up, one more hour. The Bucs. How much blame should Todd Bowles get? Does he not get enough respect from the fans? What about the Rays? What the hell is going on there? And in 3 years, who's owning the Rays and where are they playing? Some pressing questions on the Tampa Bay sports scene. We're going to get some answers. My guy, Tampa Bay Times columnist John Romano. You can read him at tampabay.com. He will join me coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Listen, it is The Drive. It is presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. TKras here, along with the Chocolate Milk King, Chris Mathis, who just got a Kit Kat bar in order to hold them over until we get off the air. He had a sugar rush. But we're here talking about our guys over at Moss Nissan. 2025 is here, and they want to put you behind the wheel of a new or pre-owned vehicle. Extraordinary vehicles over at Moss Nissan. I bought my last 2 vehicles, my Pathfinder. I absolutely love it. And after the holidays, if you've got a credit card bills or a holiday hangover, they've got the cure at Moss Nissan, Chris.
Yeah, they do, Tampa Bay. It's as easy as this. No money down, plus no money due or no payments due until the spring.
I've got Moss Care for my vehicle, and that's what you get with every purchase. What is Moss Care? Lifetime oil changes and tire rotations for as long as you own the vehicles. That's a plus.
Now you're sitting there driving home thinking, wait, I get all of this and that too? Yes, you do. In addition to the largest Nissan inventory in Tampa Bay.
You got that right. And they've got 3 locations, by the way. Tampa, Newport Richie, or up in Brooksville. And you can check out that inventory online at mossnissan.com. That's mossnissan.com. Moss Nissan, whatever it takes.
So head to Costco and grab
The full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up. Because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
I mean, outside looking in, they see something different, but inside, being in the building and seeing him every day, the way he works, the way he tries to do the best for the players and stuff like that. We know what type of guy we got. We know what type of leader and man he is. And if you don't hear nothing else complaining about him, I don't think you should complain about him.
Levante David shooting straight facts about his head coach, Todd Bowles, who obviously has come under fire from some fans on the heels of their playoff loss to the Washington Commanders. So is Todd Bowles getting a bad rap from some fans here in the Tampa Bay area? Welcome back. Good evening, Tampa Bay. 6:09 on your ride home on this beautiful Wednesday evening now. The Drive with yours truly, Tom Krasnicki, presented by Moss Nissan. You've got Chris Mathis on the other side. More of your calls and texts coming up. 888-546-4620. You can text at 82945. We've got the final drive coming up before we get out of here at 7 o'clock. So, is Todd Bowles certainly on the hot seat heading into 2025? What do the Bucs need to do? And what's going on with the Rays? A lot of pressing issues here in the Tampa Bay sports scene. So let's go to the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He wrote a great article on Todd Bowles. You can read him at the Tampa Bay Times and tampabay.com. Columnist John Romano is back with me here on The Drive. Johnny boy, how are you, man?
Hey, man, how are you?
Doing great. It was great to see you the other day, walking around the Bucs locker room, talking about this, that, and the other thing. But talk to us about your article. The headline, Todd Bowles deserves a lot more credit than fans seem willing to give.
Well, the whole reason for writing it was just sort of seeing the reaction on social media and getting emails after the playoff game. People seem to act as if this Buccaneers team should be in the Super Bowl this year. I don't think anybody in the NFL thinks the Bucs are that talented. This is a good team. It's a playoff team. It's a quality team, but it's not a team that should be beaten, the 99% of the other teams in the NFL. And I think Todd Bowles, people seem to be blaming Todd Bowles for this shortcoming. When in fact it's a team that has sort of been rebuilding for the last 2 or 3 years, and while they've done it, Bowles has managed to keep them in the playoffs every year, and I think that's commendable. I'm not sure that Bowles is a great coach. The record speaks for itself. He's 27-24 in Tampa Bay. That's pretty good, but it's not it's nothing that's going to get you into the Hall of Fame. But considering the circumstances, I just don't think people are giving him enough credit.
And I think you're right, and I read the article, and I've been talking about this as well. The Buccaneers are one of the oldest teams in the league, Brady's last year in 21, and to be able to transition from being one of the oldest teams in the league, one of the oldest teams in the league, upside down on the salary cap, to being the second youngest team, and still continue to win and make the playoffs and win its division, I think there's something that needs to be said for that.
Absolutely. I mean, last year, I believe they had more rookies take snaps on offense and defense than any team in the NFL. This year, among the 14 playoff teams, I think there were only 2 that might have had more rookies taking snaps. So that's 2 years in a row that they've been transitioning to this younger lineup. And, you got to give the guy a little slack for, when players make mistakes, it's not always the coach's fault. Sometimes It's the fault of a 22-year-old who's still young and still fresh in this league and still learning how to play. Now, the expectations should go up every year, and the team has gotten better every year. Bowles' first year as head coach, they were 8-9, then they improved to 9-8, and now improved to 10-7. Next year, I think the standards are going to be a little higher again. So I'm not saying, give the guy a lifetime contract. I just think it's a little crazy to be, trying to run him out of town on a rail and replace him with an offensive coordinator who has been an offensive coordinator for 1 year in the league. I mean, I think Liam Cohen did an incredible job this year. I think he should be in contention for the Professional Football Writers Assistant Coach of the Year award, but that doesn't mean he's a lock as a head coach. Certainly not at this age. I think, what is he, 39 now? He's got plenty of time to grow in this role.
John Romano, columnist, Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. He's got the article on Todd Bowles deserving more credit than fans seem willing to give. He's with me here on The Drive. And you're right in terms of Todd Bowles is not a great coach. I don't think anyone's going to confuse him with a Sean McVay or an Andy Reid. And he certainly needs help when it comes to clock management and things of that nature. But you also hit on another point, too, and we just saw it against the Commanders with young players making mistakes. And these are young players, high upside players, but they are young players. They're going to make mistakes. Graham Barton snapping that ball prematurely, and the mix-up between Baker Mayfield and a rookie receiver, and what I thought was the biggest play of the game. I mean, you were up 17-13 when that fumble took place, and Washington recovered that ball at the Tampa Bay 13, and then they ended up scoring a touchdown after that.
Well, and exactly right. As you point out, those were the two biggest mistakes in the game, Barton's and the fumble, and there were rookies involved in both of those plays. I mean, that's the kind of thing that just happens when you have younger players. And that's, as you said, nobody is calling Todd Bowles a great Hall of Fame coach.
No.
But what he does bring is a steadiness. He's very the players like him. He doesn't call players out. He was a player in this league. He understands the mentality of players. He has got them playing for him. Behind closed doors, I think fans like to see a little more fire out of a head coach. They like to see a little more criticism. Bruce Allen was great with the quips, and he would call players out. But that was a veteran team that Bruce Arians had. Todd Bowles has a very young team, and he knows how to manage a young team. He is the perfect kind of guy to bring these players along. Now, maybe we get to the point in Tampa Bay where, some other type of voice is needed as the team grows older. Maybe they do need more of a kick in the butt, publicly, or, a little more accountability publicly. And maybe that's a decision to be made down the road. But right now, I think the guy has done as well a job as you could be expected with the circumstances he was given.
He's safe for now, but I talked about this the other day, and you just mentioned it as well, and you wrote about it too at TampaBay.com. Next year, the expectations go up. Jason Light, we both know him. He's one of the best GMs in the business. He's going to go out there. He's going to find another edge rusher. He's going to find another linebacker, and they need another corner, I think, desperately. They'll make improvements. They'll be better. Does Todd Bowles need a deep playoff run next year in order to keep his job?
I think that is a very plausible scenario, and especially with what they do in the offseason. I mean, if they, you just mentioned three different positions on defense, an edge rusher, an inside linebacker, and another corner. It's hard to come out of a draft with three quality players like that. So I'll be interested to see if they actually go out and spend a little money in free agency in this offseason. They haven't done it the last couple of years. They've sort of devoted the salary cap to re-signing players like Tristan Wirfs and Winfield and Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. Next year, if they go out and spend a little money to boost this defense, then I think absolutely the stakes get higher, the expectations get higher, and the pressure on Bowles will get higher as a result.
Let's talk about some of the pending free agents. You just heard him coming into the segment. Levante David, he talked to us in the locker room. I talked to him, for a couple of moments afterward. Knowing Levante as long as I have, I think he wants to play again. It's just his mind and his body being in agreement with that. I think he's back next year. What say you?
I agree. I think Levante wants to play. It's going to be a question of what the Bucs are able to offer him and what they come up with, what other answers they come up with on that defense, because it's interesting. At his age, 34, Levante just had his best pass rushing season in like 10 years. I don't remember how many sacks he finished with, around 5, but it was the most he'd had in years. And I think it was because they don't have any coverage linebackers anymore. That's what Levante used to be really good at. They used Devin White as the pass rusher in the past, and Levante was the guy who stayed in coverage. Now Levante's rushing the passer because he may not have the legs to be a coverage linebacker anymore. So I think you've got to make accommodations for Levante, and it depends on who they pair him with in terms of whether the Bucs bring him back.
And I think Servassier Dennis is that guy you're talking about, John, because he showed that he was a really good coverage linebacker before he got hurt. He comes back next year. I think he's the guy that the Buccaneers are going to be leaning on. Now, on the other side, Chris Godwin, the other big free agent. I think he's coming back. He had the ankle injury. He loves Tampa Bay. He's really close with Mike Evans. I think a one-year deal filled with some incentives, I think would make sense for the Bucs, would make sense for Chris Godwin. Your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely right. Chris Godwin is comfortable here. He's a player coming off a pretty major injury, his second one in like 3 or 4 years. So I don't think he's going to find a lot of riches on the free agent market. I mean, certainly teams will be willing to sign him, but I don't know if it'll be for his true value until he proves himself healthy again after this injury. So as you said, I think it makes absolute sense for a one-year deal. Sort of like what Baker Mayfield did his first year here. If everything goes well, then go ahead. The Bucs can re-sign him to a bigger deal, or he can go look for big money elsewhere. But I would expect Chris Godwin would be back next year.
John Romano, Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. The wonderfully talented columnist is back with us here on The Drive. Liam Cohen, hotshot offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers. He's interviewing as we speak up in Jacksonville, John. So what are the chances he leaves? Now, if you're Liam Cohen, you got to think about this realistically and logistically. I'm here in Tampa Bay. I already know the quarterback, O-line. I know everybody here. Plus, another year or two down the road, I might be in line to be the guy. Or do I roll the dice if I'm offered a head coaching job, which doesn't come around very often? Do I go up to Jacksonville and deal with that nutty owner and a GM that you may not want to deal with, even though you have Trevor Lawrence and another winnable division? What do you think?
It's funny. It's as you said, those jobs are pretty rare, and I can remember Dave Canales last year basically saying, when this kind of job comes along, you don't question where it is, you just take it. And he did that last year in Carolina. I think Liam Cohen can afford to be a little more choosy. I think he's got a very good reputation right now around the league, and I think it'll only grow if he comes back here. He knows this offense, obviously knows this team. I think he realizes he can put up 30 points a game next year as well. Teams are still going to be talking to him next year, sort of like the coordinator in Detroit who waited a year and pretty much has his pick of teams this year. I think that makes much more sense than going to a franchise where the general manager has never gotten a lot of love from anybody around the league. The owner tends to be sort of mercurial and a little trigger happy. So that just doesn't seem like the situation a hot young coordinator needs to take when he's still barely 40 years old.
All right, let's switch gears. I want to ask you about the Rays because in a few weeks, pitchers and catchers will be reporting. The season will be coming around. The Rays are playing at Steinbrenner Field, as we all know. And this stuff with the Trop and the new stadium, and he said, she said, you and I were talking the other day about this, and I just don't know sometimes where the Rays are coming from. They tell the city of St. Pete, we don't think you should don't bother, repairing the Trop, and then they reverse course on that. So give me your best guess as to what you think the Rays are thinking in terms of the Trop. Are they going to be playing at the Trop next year in your estimation or not? Well,
I think the Rays originally told the city not to to fix the Trop because they doubted seriously whether it could be done in time for 2026, and they doubted whether it could be done for the price that the consultants originally said, somewhere around $57 million. So I think they felt like it was sort of just a bad idea all around to try and fix something when it hadn't been thoroughly inspected in terms of what they're going to find once they try to put that place back together again. But at some point, Major League Baseball, I believe, stepped in and told the Rays, look, you need to have a place to play in 2026, because I think the Rays were talking about leaving the state, if just temporarily, supposedly, but leave the state, go find a AAA stadium somewhere that's a little bigger, that might have a very hungry fan base, and see if they can increase their revenues a little bit more instead of trying to play in a smaller stadium like Steinbrenner Field, where it's going to be hot and rainy in the summertime and all that. I don't think Major League Baseball liked that idea whatsoever, and I think that's the reason that the Rays switched gears and told St. Petersburg, all right, go ahead, try and fix the Trop, see if you can get it done in time for the 2026 season. Although in the letter that they sent to the city, they specifically said, it's going to cost us a lot of money if it's not ready at the start of the 2026 season, and we have to move mid-season, which is kind of ironic considering this is the franchise that was talking about doing a split season in Montreal just a couple of years ago.
Right. Oh, my gosh. It's just one big drama, one story after another. So they want the Trop to be ready. We'll see how that works out. Now, the bonds were approved. I know a little bit later. I know the Rays weren't happy about the delayed vote. And now the longer you wait, John, whether it's fixing the Trop or finding a new home, the more expensive it gets. So they have until March the 31st to kind of agree on the new stadium plan and everything else. What do you think happens there?
I think the Rays are just going to play this out for as long as they possibly can until some better idea comes along, whether that's a new stadium plan in Tampa Bay, which I think is kind of doubtful considering what the county and the city politicians have been saying lately, or whether Stu Sternberg just decides, this is getting to be too much of a hassle. I think it's time for me to just sell the franchise, because I truly don't think Stu wants to move the team out of the market. I don't think he's ever wanted to do that. He didn't want to be the guy sort of saddled with that throughout history. But I do think he's fed up. I think he's just unhappy. I think in his mind, he has done everything he could to put a winner on the field, and the fan support has just not been there in terms of butts in the seat, which is, that's how you come up with your payroll figures is, the more money you make, revenues you get from the box office and on TV, the more you can spend. And so I just think he's tired. I would not be surprised if sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, we hear that the Rays have been sold to somebody. It's just a question of whether there's a local buyer that steps up.
Well, and that's the whole question, because I've been talking to a lot of people, John, as you have, and there are some rumors out there of maybe some owner and investor groups that might be interested in either buying into the team or buying the team altogether, and they've been out there for the last 2 to 3 years consistently. All right, we got less than a minute to go. This is a very difficult question, John Romano, but you're a very smart man, and that's why I'm asking you, all right? In 3 years, who's owning the Rays, A, and B, where are the Rays playing?
Holy smokes. I'm not even sure I can tell you where I'm going to be in 3 years, let alone the Rays. My best guess, it is going to be an owner that we do not know. I don't think it's anybody local that, the names that you hear around town here. I think it's going to be somebody from elsewhere. And I do think once you get a new owner in, a new stadium deal comes together in Tampa Bay, which seems to happen in a lot of places. It's never the first owner that's seeking the stadium that gets it built. It's always the second owner who comes in and sort of is the white knight to save the day.
I agree with you. I think the Rays have a new owner, and I think they figure out a way to stay here, somewhere in the Tampa Bay area. I don't know if it's in St. Pete or in Tampa, but I think they're here, and I think it's a new owner calling the shots. All right, he's John Romano.
I agree.
Tampa Bay Times. You can read him at tampabay.com. Great article on Todd Bowles, and I'm sure a lot of fans will go and read it because they want him fired. John, you're not getting fired anytime soon, buddy. I appreciate a few minutes.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
You got it, John. You can read his article at tampabay.com. John Romano. Look, it's a good article. And look, John is very precise. You know, he's got facts to back it up. And I don't think a lot of fans want Todd Bowles around. But right now there's little justification for getting rid of him. But next year, yeah, the heat will be on next year because Jason Light will make the improvements. And it'll be up to Todd Bowles. He's got to win a couple of games next year in the postseason. You not only have to make the playoffs, you got to make a deep run. And if he doesn't, then you listen. Then the Buccaneers will make a decision and move off of him. It's that simple. 888-546-4620. And the Rays conversation is also very interesting as well. And I know that's a difficult convo, but I think in 3 years, we may very well be talking about a new owner. And I think whoever owns this team, I think they're still here. They're not going anywhere else. I'm pretty confident of that. I mean, stranger things have happened. Stranger things can happen. But I think the Rays are here. But I think ownership could change hands. And I'm pretty confident, actually, that will occur. All right, we'll get your thoughts on that. Your calls and texts are coming up next, as well as an update on Liam Cohen. He's looking at another opportunity. In fact, he had an interview today somewhere. We'll get into that. NFL news and notes on the head coaching carousel next here on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, January's here. You know the biggest college football game is taking place on Monday. We'll have the game right here, the national championship. Ohio State on one side, Notre Dame on the other side. There obviously will be a lot of betting interest. I know I'm going to get involved and do a 4 or 5 leg parlay on that game. Then you have the NFL divisional playoff games this weekend. I'm going to be all over on that. That's why you need to download the Hard Rock Bet app, guys. Get on it. It's Florida's only legal sports book. And it's a beautiful thing right now. And aside from football, you can also wager on the MMA, college basketball, and so much more. Hard Rock Bet has all of the action going this postseason with the football games. And when the big game comes around, the Hard Rock Bet is going all out, by the way. They're rolling out over $5.9 million in bonus bets and so much more. So download it now on the App Store or Google Play. And remember, it's offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically.
forward from there. But, if they're not talking about you guys for interviews, then you're probably not doing it right.
That's Buccaneer head coach, Todd Bowles, and he's speaking about his offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, who is getting head coaching interviews. He's got one, and he went on it today as we welcome you back, 6:38 on your ride home here on this Would You Rather Wednesday, the drive with TKras, Chris Mathis on the other side. Great to have you with us. We'll take you into 7 o'clock. 888-546-4620 is the phone number. So Liam Cohen interviewed today up in Jacksonville for the Jaguars head coaching opening. And Cohen was the 6th candidate being interviewed by the Jaguars. So there are other candidates involved. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider, reported that he is one of the top candidates for the job. Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, is looking for an offensive-minded coach, although they also interviewed Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach. He got an interview. Ben Johnson's gotten an interview. So they've interviewed quite a few guys. We'll find out if he's called in for a second interview, then that means his hiring would be imminent. So that's something to keep in mind and watch for over the next week or so. So this is the only team that has requested permission to talk to him about a head coaching vacancy, meaning Jacksonville with Liam Cohen. There are 5 other openings. We haven't seen anybody else, though, reach out, which I find interesting. And I don't know if that's a thing or not. It just kind of depends on what that team is looking for. Now, everyone is looking for offense, but some might be looking for prior experience in a head coach. Maybe that's what the Saints are doing. I don't know. But the Saints are talking to a number of people. They interviewed Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is interviewed for the Jets job, too. He's interviewed at quite a few places. I think Aaron Glenn is getting either the Saints job or the Jets job. And he's familiar with both places. He worked as an assistant up in New Orleans with the Saints. And, of course, drafted by the Jets in 1994. He was a Pro Bowler with the Jets as a player. So he does have a connection there. And according to reports, he wants the Jets job. Listen, I would not object to Aaron Glenn being the Jets head coach at all. I think he absolutely will be a head coach. I think the job he did with the Lions defense being as crushed as they were, 18 guys on injured reserve, most of those guys were defensive players. I think Aaron Glenn's done a wonderful job. And what he did to Sam Darnold, he exposed them 2 weeks ago. And then, the Rams picked up on that same game plan. It's a copycat league. Once they see something working, other teams will copy it, and they'll use it against you. And Darnold the last 2 weeks was awful, and Aaron Glenn really started the trend 2 weeks ago where he threw a bunch of different looks. He played, a lot of zone. Darnold was forced to hold on to the ball way too long, which has been a problem, and he was sacked a bunch of times by both the Lions and the Rams in the last 2 weeks. So I think Aaron Glenn is absolutely getting one of these jobs. Saints job or the Jets job. And as for Liam Cohen, the Cowboys job has just become available, but it seems like Deion Sanders is destined to be Jerry Jones's guy with Dallas, doesn't it? That's what it looks like to me. I think Jerry Jones wants to go with an established guy, whether he thinks it's Deion Sanders, a guy that he's got a close personal relationship with. John Gruden's name has come up in some circles, especially connected to the Cowboys job. I think Jerry Jones wants a proven guy, but a proven guy is not going to want to work for Jerry Jones if he is so adamant on keeping the structure the way that it is with, an 83, 84-year-old man, however old he is, a guy in his 80s, wanting to act as the GM. So I think that might be an issue for a lot of guys, a lot of established guys, if that's what they want. If they want an established guy, I don't think Liam Cohen goes there. The Bears are interviewing Mike McCarthy. That seems to be a natural fit to help their young quarterback, Caleb Williams. And then you got the Raiders. Now, Tom Brady is the minority owner of the Raiders, as you know, and a lot of you seem to be confused about the statement that I made on this show. What was it, yesterday, Chris Mathis?
Yeah. Yep, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. So I made a statement yesterday, and people took it the wrong way on social media. And this is why I freaking hate social media, and this is why I hate some listeners. Some listeners, not all listeners, because you guys don't freaking listen. Listen, there's context to every statement that is made that you see on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, and these videos. There's always context. I don't throw things out there haphazardly without putting some time or effort, making it an informed opinion by using facts to back up what I'm saying. So I made the statement yesterday that I think Brady's last broadcast will be the Super Bowl. And some of you took it, why are you saying that about Tom? He's a terrible broadcaster. Is that why you're saying that? No, context. He's a minority owner of the Raiders. It is a conflict of interest. He cannot continue, nor should the NFL allow it to continue, to have him serve both roles. You can't do it. Now, he's had a lot of praise for Liam Cohen, and every Bucs game that Brady has done, he has been seen talking to Liam Cohen every single time. And look, Liam Cohen is like, over the moon, like head over heels in love with Brady. I mean, here's a guy who went to UMass, grew up in that neck of the woods in New England, was a huge Patriots fan, was a huge Tom Brady fan. Now here he is talking to Tom Brady before the game. So he's starstruck by Brady. He's mentioned that, Liam has mentioned. He's like, I'm starstruck by the guy. I love the guy. And now here's Tom Brady talking to him before every Buccaneer game that he's been called to announce. And now Brady has had a heavy influence in what the Raiders are doing. They're interviewing for GMs. They're interviewing for head coaches. Deion Sanders' name has been brought up too in the periphery. The Raiders do have a very high pick. Presumably, they're going to want to pick a quarterback. So would Liam Cohen go to work for Tom Brady if the Raiders request permission to talk to him? Right now, the Jaguars are the only team that has talked to Liam Cohen, and they interviewed him today. So we'll keep you updated on what that looks like. Again, I think that's a tough spot for Liam Cohen. Either going to Jacksonville, with the owner is kind of like a little crazy, a GM that is not respected around NFL circles. The Raiders' position is even worse. I know you got Brock Bowers, who's a tremendous player, and Max Crosby. They've got a couple of building blocks. However, you're Liam Cohen. You've never been a head coach before. Do you really want to go to the Raiders and have to coach against Andy Reid twice a year, Jim Harbaugh twice a year, Sean Payton twice a year? That's a really tough ask for a guy who's never been a head coach before to go into that division, the Lions' Den, and have to compete with those big boys. I think it would be wise for Liam Cohen to stick around here. Just for a bit. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, final thoughts, the final drive.
Print for details. Ends 2/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
The Final Drive.
One of the things I admire about Lightning head coach John Cooper is that he's a no-nonsense guy. He's got a set of rules, and everyone has to abide by them. Blackjack Braden Point is having an incredible season. He was late, though, to the arena for last night's game against the Bruins up at TD Garden in Boston. Guess what? Nobody's above the law. John Cooper benched him for that game, even though he knew that likely would mean the Lightning would lose, and they did lose. They were getting trampled 4-0. They scored a couple of goals, but they ended up losing that game 6-2. And Coop has done this before. Eric Chernak last year was late for a meeting, missed a meeting. He sat out a game. He's benched Nikita Kucherov. He benched Steven Stamkos once upon a time. And that's why you've got to respect a guy like John Cooper. There is no double standard. The rules are made for everybody. That's why he's as great as he is.
The Final Drive.
I want to thank our guests today. It was an awesome show. Really enjoyed John Romano. Really enjoyed Ross Tucker. 953WDA.com. Check out those interviews. Would You Rather was also incredible. Credit to you, Chris Mathis, for that. We had a lot of fun today. Tomorrow, Barrett Sallee on the National Championship game. We'll talk college ball with him. Rick Stroud will join us as well. More Bucs in NFL. Plus, Let It Ride. We hope you can join us then. I'm on TV tonight at 10:30 on Bay News 9. Check me out there. I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, at 3 o'clock, you're dismissed. Come on!